Hey, how's it going? The farthest reaches of the universe. Welcome to another episode of Zoobox Goes to the Movies. I'm joined again by Big Paul.
Yo, how you doing, Sean?
Oh, I'm doing great, especially because of what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about Stanley Kubrick's 1968 film, 2001: A Space Odyssey. And God damn it, we are going to open the pod bay doors, and we're going to get deep down and dirty. We went into everything you could possibly think of when it came to this movie. This has been 2 weeks of prep, basically.
I done goofed.
Why?
I've just been watching Ad Astra all week.
Well, that's understandable. Did it get in you? Did it get in your feels?
Yeah, it got right in the feels. No, a little space humor for you.
Well, Ad Astra definitely has it's like a microcosm of the ideas in 2001. It's like if you took like one sentence out of the description of the meta context of 2001 and made a movie about it. It's kind of what that movie is. Mm-hmm. Did you watch Ad Astra?
I sure did. I want to dig up the one because you said you and Dan did that one a while back. So
yeah, we did. That was one of the better ones we did too. So,
but no, just the prep going into this and just kind of looking into that. You know, we both read the book for the first time and just a lot of other things. Everything was all space, space all
the time. Yeah, man. It's kind of weird because when you watch 2001 and you start, like, it gives you a taste for it. You're like, I suddenly want to watch every kind of distant, cold space movie ever made.
Absolutely.
You know, and then you see how they compare, and you see that everybody is basically ripping off 2001. Everybody.
Yes, sir. So christening the ship for this voyage. What are you drinking?
Well, on your recommendation, I went and got myself some High West double rye. Yeah.
So, because I recommended, I actually finished my bottle earlier in the week. I wanted to save it for this. I was like, oh, shit, now I got to get it again because I told him to buy it. So, I'm on my second one this week for you. Sweet pea in unison.
See, I drank the cheap stuff during the week. I had this stuff, what is it called? Kind of appropriate. A little bit appropriate. This Howler Head. This is out of Charleston, South Carolina. Howler Head. It's a monkey. What's that?
Is that the banana infused one?
Yes. And this is like drinking a liqueur. It's kind of gross.
Ah.
Like, it's good for a glass, and then it just coats your mouth in like sweetness, like that like chemical banana flavoring.
Mm-hmm.
A palate destroyer, everybody. A palate destroyer. Not for distinguished men. Not for men who talk about 2001: A Space Odyssey and read philosophy books and get deep into the paint with it. It's not for us. High West, though, I feel like we might be doing something. I have not even tasted it yet. Haven't even tasted it. Yeah, I poured a glass. I'm ready to go.
All right. Well, virtual cheers, my friend. This is actually distilled out in Parkville, Utah. Beautiful, beautiful city. About an hour north of Salt Lake City, and you can't actually drink it there because, you know, Mormons and stuff. But it's I love it. I love it. So I'm glad you checked it out because this has been one of my go-to over the years, and I really enjoy it.
All right, let's see here. Oh, that's nice and smooth. It's got a nice flavor. It's got a real nice flavor. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so good.
And you got the double rye, right?
Yeah.
So that's their low-end one. Their high-end one is a Rendezvous rye,
which is
about twice the price of that. And then they had another one. But
they have a whole line. I finally found the good liquor store in the town I live in, and it was the one liquor store I hadn't gone into yet. So I finally found the one that's just wall-to-wall, like, very, very good selection, and their whiskey selection is like crazy. It's like half the store.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and they had every version of High West. There's like 15 of them.
Yeah. Oh, they got the bourbon side. It's a really good distillery.
Yeah,
really
cool
distillery. But also, little space cowboy, go on the journey. You see, try to get my Kubrick on, get into it. Layers. So, you know, last couple of Kubrick films we did, we started talking about and just really fanboying it up about what a genius he is. Yeah. I looked up his IQ. So, his IQ, he scored 200. Now, to put that into perspective, that's 10 points higher than Stephen Hawking and 40 points higher than Albert Einstein. This guy was a photographer and film director.
Yeah, he barely made it out of high school.
He could have.
You know, it's one of when you hear about stuff like people like that, you're like, and you think back on your high school career, and you're like, yeah, I'm one of these guys. One of these dudes.
We could only hope. We could only hope. I was just looking at that, just like, damn, just putting like whatever stake. I mean, you put into IQ tests or any types of measurements like that. But that's insane to think like this guy that we've been fanboying over his films last couple of weeks. Well, last couple of months, really, right? Since it was Shining, we did that in May, I think. But I just like it really is like a legit genius by the way our society measures intelligence. Like it's crazy.
and I think the proof is in the pudding. I mean, his movies they're more than movies. They're great pieces of art. Like they're on that kind of level. They're not just some sort of passive entertainment. Every single thing is meaningful. And there is just so much to dive into as a person, and that kind of like intelligence, like he works on so many different layers, it gives me a fucking headache. You start thinking about like, I was thinking of like, how are we going to talk about this movie?
Yeah.
How are we going to talk? How are we even going to approach talking about it? And I started getting a headache. I was just like,
no, I'm actually nervous about this one, but I like watching a Kubrick film, trying to analyze or dissect it is like trying to get out of the escape room. Did you ever do one of those yet?
No, I haven't, but I know what they are though.
Well, you know the premise and everything, but it's really intense. It's really intense. It gets you. But you brought up like a piece of art, and that's one of the things I wanted to look into, just like with Dr. Strangelove, and just trying to get back into the context of the time the movie took place. And I was just thinking, like overall, like the 60s, I would say is a huge breakthrough in art. You had Andy Warhol, Dali, blah, blah, but kind of going into this and digging more into like the stylistic aspects of the film, I got into the op art movement, which influenced and gave the rebirth to kinetic art. So, and this is both really prominent throughout the film, whether it's just the space station or the shuttles rotating out there as a classic physical version of like kinetic art, and then geospatial lines and contrast of colors going in perpetual motion, which is the stargaze scene like later in the film. So those were two. This was a big thing throughout the decade. A lot of people were exploring that. It got me onto Bridget Riley, who was really she gets a lot of credit for being a very prominent figure in the screen, a lot of great works for it. And a funny fact about her is that she set up a group with some other people in the scene, if you will, and they picked up an up-and-comer who was really into phallic kinetic pieces, and ended up sticking with Stanley Kubrick, who used a lot of his art for the next one we're going to talk about. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Specifically the giant dong one too. So it's just crazy. It's just connected. So she.
Well, it's just there's like a linearity to his work, like where you can actually track progress. You see where one thing organically grows from the next, and how everything influences the next thing. Like that's his body of work is like reading. Well, we're going to talk about him a little bit, but like Friedrich Nietzsche. Like when you read Nietzsche, you have to read it in kind of chronological order, and then you see the progress of his thought. Like he's not like somebody that was a static type of philosopher that just like got it right the first time. He was always iterating, he was always improving on, he was always criticizing himself. And I think Kubrick is a lot like that in a lot of ways. I don't know if he stick the landing of his filmography in his life. We'll find out. But it's definitely interesting because even something like that, this little stray thing, it shows up later. It shows up in the next thing, like where he continued on that journey.
Yeah, oh, for sure. But a couple other things put in the historical context is Planet of the Apes aired 6 days prior to the release of 2001. One day after, Martin Luther King gave his "I've Been to the Mountaintop" speech. And then 2 days later, the premiere of this film, he was assassinated. The whole country completely in unrest with riots over the assassination of the king. And then again, it's 68, Vietnam. The whole country is torn up about Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Politics going on, Lyndon B. Johnson, and just everyone just completely sad. Kind of really similar to what's happening today. A lot of riots, things like that too. So there's that was kind of an interesting thing, kind of looking back and watching, Space Odyssey, focusing on this, and then meanwhile the outside in the reality, like we're still fighting at our basic primal like instances over whatever the case may be. But I'm just making a parallel. I'm not trying to trivialize anything that was going on, but the concept like space and beyond, going out to the infinite, while meanwhile your actual physical reality is on fire, right?
Yeah, we're still in the Dawn of Man chapter in reality.
Yeah, not too far off it. And then was it Apollo 6 launched 2 days after this film was done, and Apollo 6 was the last unmanned test flight for Saturn V.
Yeah.
And the release of the date was 14 months prior to when Buzz and Armstrong actually did land on the moon. So it's
that's what's so insane about this movie, is that this was conceived and made before that any of that happened, before the reality actually happened, right? And how much of it got correct. Like that, I mean, NASA was involved in the background of this movie. They actually used this movie as a promotion tool, or that was their intention. They released like this little mini propaganda documentary about how they were hoping that 2001 would kind of spur on the public's interest for manned space travel. Yeah.
So, allegedly.
Allegedly, exactly. Exactly.
Land on the moon.
And it's all pretty convincing, guys. It's all right. He fooled me.
Save that for Prime. Go to the movies.
Yeah, this is serious business. So we both read the book for the first time. Actually, you had realized that you had never really actually watched the whole movie before.
No.
Yeah. So you read the book first.
Yeah.
And I listened to the audiobook before I revisited it this time. I mean, I've seen this movie quite a few times, but before this fresh watch, the first of the fresh watches, I watched it, I think, probably like maybe 3 or 4 times this week. Just like sometimes it would be on just in the background or whatever, but yeah, I had it kind of on. It was around me. Right. So what did you think of the book?
So, one, I loved the book. I really loved the book, and I got the 2010 and then the final as well. On backward, that's on the queue. Check out. So, the book was a great experience, great piece of sci-fi, and not the movie.
To give everybody a little context for the novel before we start talking about it, Stanley Kubrick read Arthur C. Clarke's short story, The Sentinel, and he wanted to do an adaptation of The Sentinel. And then once he got to talking to Clarke, they're like, well, let's do something original. Let's do something different. So they started developing a story, and they did like an outline, basically. And then Clarke would be the one to write it. But Clarke was writing it while they were in production of the movie. And the thing was, as production went along, Stanley Kubrick started basically not allowing Arthur C. Clarke to see what he was doing. I think in the copy that you have, did you read the foreword by Arthur C. Clarke?
Yes, I did.
He's like kind of like doesn't get it, even in the foreword. He's like doesn't realize that like Stanley was like purposefully cutting him out of the process.
Stanley trolled Clarke and everyone.
Well, this is the history. This is the history of Stanley Kubrick when he adapts your novel. He's going to take your bare bones idea and then he's going to tell the story that he wants to tell. He did it with The Shining. He did it with Clockwork Orange when we talk about that, but he omits things that completely change the meaning of the story, like in a significant way. Yep. And
Dr. Strangelove.
He did it with Eyes Wide Shut, Tromaville. Or it's called Traumaville. It's an old French book from the 30s. And then I don't know if Full Metal Jacket is actually based on a particular book. I'm not sure. It probably is. We'll find out. We'll find out when we get there. Mm-hmm. But this is kind of classic Kubrick. But the fact that he was also involved in its creation and was still doing this shit, like, is kind of funny.
Yeah.
because when I listened to the book, I really liked parts of the book, but I found it kind of very straightforward. I've read a lot of stuff like this. I've even read some other Arthur C. Clarke stuff. And I didn't think that it informed the book or the movie rather, and I think it honestly like has a completely different purpose. So when I say it's straightforward, like I don't think that the movie is really about first contact. I don't think that's what it's actually about. The book is clearly about that. So much so that Clarke writes sequels that deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually made another movie, 2010, the year we made contact.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think we might get in. I think we should probably do on the back end of the Kubrick series because there's a couple sequels to Kubrick movies that are out there. So we should probably tackle that one as well. But so that's the kind of interesting context to it. But I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm so familiar with the movie, I just didn't really get a ton out of the book. Like I thought it was fine. I thought it was written really well. I really loved the Dawn of Man, the beginning, the first. 100 pages or so. Like that was my favorite part of the book.
Well, just like anything, like the book is going to be more detailed. It's going to have it's going to give you more than what you're going to get out of the film, right? For whatever the case may be, budget, time, whatever the case is. So, but if for like the sci-fi route, if you want to enjoy a good sci-fi story, it's like read the book, and then if you just want a Kubrick cinematic experience, then watch the film. So, because really, like a lot of the sci-fi out of it is just that they're in space, and then he just explores different themes, blatant and some not so much, throughout the film.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed the book, and it was and then watching the movie, which really felt like the first time that I watched the film, and then you can't help. It's only natural to be okay. Where are they going? I keep thinking, especially in the cases with Hal. And and Dr. Hayward, I'm like, how would this make sense, to the viewer? Like, if you didn't read the book to a certain degree. So I have to give it other couple watches, and then trying to disassociate, the book from what I'm watching, trying to break out that these are two separate things. Yes, there's similarities, but they are two separate journeys completely on what's happening here. So that was like the hardest part for me to, prep for the podcast and trying to talk about the film, versus the book. So I would love to do something like on the side talking about the book specifically and how that reads out there, because I kind of like exploring, that narrative where Clarke went with, especially TMA2 and everything, because it's the whole, it's it's pretty dark. I like it, but there's some scenes that they did capture in the book that were in the film, especially the destruction of Hal.
Yes.
Just really gut wrenching, like reading it through, and then everything in the film, like interaction, was just really hollow and just kind of disassociated from typical emotions. And the accents all trained to not get the blood pressure high and to be calm no matter what.
Yeah.
Everything, because a lot of that into it. They've been out in space for months. I get all that, but when you read that, you read those transitions and all those actions that transpired in the book, it was really gut wrenching. Especially the whole stargazing scene on there too. So that was interesting, and you'll pick up some things I described in the book that made it to the film, but then a lot of stuff was not addressed at all. But that's okay, because these are two. Two different.
I honestly think that their aims are so different, and I came up with my own little pet theory, and we'll talk about that at some point tonight. But I think the aims are just so much different. I think Stanley Kubrick's making a more of a broad philosophical point about the evolution of man and self-actualization, and technology and whatnot, and our relationship to technology and how that affects us as people. So when you say that the astronauts they're kind of cold, despondent, disassociative, they almost show no emotions, right? In some sort of way, they're a tool. They've become part of this technological process. And I mean, even Hal even makes mention of this to Bowman when he's going to kill him. He's like, I think you need to take one of your stress pills, Dave. like, so there's kind of this implication that these guys take medication to stay even keeled.
Right.
And it kind of sucks all the joy out of their life, and then there's, Poole, his family calls him on the phone, and he's like completely passive. He just shows no emotion. He just doesn't care. So, I think those are kind of baked into the movie more than they are into the book. Like, the book they're more just like explorers. They're astronauts.
Yeah.
And they have more of a life, right? You feel more of their life. You feel more of their presence, and because it's a novel. You get to hear their inner thoughts and whatnot. So obviously you can't do that in a movie.
Exactly.
But before we get too far down,
Donna, man, go for it.
No, so before we get too far down, because we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. So do you want to should we just dive right into the movie? You want to dive in? Do you want to start frame one? Do you want to have more general? What do you want to do, buddy?
I'm just here for the ride, my man. I'm here for the ride.
The film starts in a black void. So the movie starts, right? There's I think it's about a 3-minute overture. It's Atmospheres by what's his name? Dude, I closed the window. Giorgio Ligeti.
Mm-hmm.
I have to do that from memory. He did all the original pieces for the movie.
Nice.
Atmospheres, one of the creepiest, unsettling on some sort of basic level piece of music I think I've ever heard. I think it gives me chills, if I'm in the right context, it gives me chills.
Yeah, absolutely. So with my Amazon Fire Stick, it's on its way out. So sometimes a movie will start playing and it's just black screen, but you'll hear the sound going on forever. So I popped in, and so I'm like, shit, it's doing it again. So I reboot it. It's doing it again. Just reboot it. I'm like, what the fuck? Third time. So now I'm like, what the hell? I just bought this.
Did you scroll forward?
Then I scrolled forward, and then I see. I'm like,
he got you.
Yeah, I gotta sit through this and get to the mind. So I'm like, okay. And then, like a nerd, I'm like, okay, now I'm going to listen to this creepy shit for 4 minutes. And it worked. Now
let me plant a seed for you here. Okay? So that happens before the credits. That happens before the MGM logo.
Mm-hmm.
You're staring at a black screen with Atmospheres playing, which always plays whenever the monolith shows up. Damn, Paul. So the implication is there's an implication, and I think it's there on purpose, that the movie itself is part of this monolith experience. It is part of this evolutionary process. It's very pretentious, but I would not put it past Kubrick to do that. To be like, my movie is so fucking important, it is the monolith.
No, especially for the times.
Yeah. Well, it's just this idea that if you think about the monolith, this marker that appears or is discovered every time there is a shift in evolution, every time this next step is taken, or that I think Kubrick would kind of see his movie and the message of his movie being in line with that.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. That would be my take on it.
So the monolith, like I said earlier in the week, was just your iPhone. Idea all the time. Now your big reveal is it is your iPhone.
Well, it's funny. They did, because there's commercials where they did Apple for its iPod when the iPods first came out. They did a 2001 commercial with the iPod being the monolith instead of the monolith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Droid and everybody and every hackathon, you name it.
Oh yeah, I think they did it first.
Always erects the monolith.
Yeah. Apple also did they did a commercial back in the 80s that was like a 1984 riff, and inserted itself as the thing that would break humanity free. How times have changed.
And
then after that, there's this beautiful shot. Thus spake Zarathustra. The piece of music plays. The big championing, big piece of music. Planets aligning with the sun. It's this big kind of champion moment. This epic moment. It also is reflective of the final shots of the movie.
Yep.
There's like a kind of a, I would say throughout the whole movie, there's almost like this obsession with circular things spinning,
Yeah.
things going in circles.
Kinetic art.
But I think it has to do with just the circularity. Like it's like the fucking Lion King song, the circle of life, like the circularity of existence. How one thing informs the other, and then it goes back and over and over and over again, and you go through cycles.
Right. No, exactly, and it's like one of the more like obvious well, I think the most sorry uh, themes out there is like evolution and what's happening with that say it for me, my man. You know me
Uh,
with the pronunciations.
Zarathustra.
Zarathustra. So I had a speech impediment growing up. People, you shut the fuck up. You shut the fuck up. But no, with like the themes of like death of a god or the themes of reoccurrence all through the source of that music, how that layers in to this film is that it will happen again, and it will like everything will come full circle. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so I know we're going like frame by frame. That was like
well, okay. Well, we can broaden it out a little bit. Let's talk. Did you looked up Nietzsche? So you looked up Zarathustra, right?
mm-hmm.
I think the fact that the music is called "Thus Spake Zarathustra," which was not written for this movie, it's not. It's just a piece of music. That is to me like Kubrick literally going like this, like pointing to his nose. It's very on the nose. Because if you know the story of Zarathustra, it's like this man who lived up on a mountain. He was kind of like the smartest man in the world, basically. He gained all this wisdom and knowledge, realized that it was like kind of a shallow pursuit to keep it to yourself. And then he comes down to tell people to kind of to try to get people to move towards self-actualization and kind of put down these kind of petty needs and grievances of being a human being and discover the sense of the Ubermensch, the Superman. Because that's the only way that society can actually progress. Like we have to, on a cultural level, we have to put religion, all that kind of stuff aside to kind of find this next step. And that is, I mean, to a large degree, that's kind of what the movie's about. In my opinion, that's what I take from the movie. It's about man's self-actualization. He becomes a god.
Yeah, like the biblical themes, like throughout this too, kind of teaching that because I mean it's a part of like the greatest story ever told, right? So that monolith is something like presented himself, a higher power presented itself in the form of a rectangular shape. We've heard that story before, you and I, in like the Ten Commandments. Remember the hand of God scribing on there and in two rectangular like shapes like that in that kind of sense. I am the only God and blah blah, and you can realize that into out in the universe there's monoliths everywhere and stuff like you think about that, but then not trying to do a direct comparison like to the biblical story, but just that is a common theme, recurring theme where something a higher power presents itself in a very basic form that changes the rest of humanity.
Okay, well, I think the Moses parallel is apt because Zarathustra is kind of a loose Moses. It's like broadens out the Moses coming down from the mountain. It's like takes that and runs with that concept. It takes the seed of that and then does a thought experiment to try to see it farther through. This is probably where maybe we would diverge in terms of what I think Kubrick's intentions are. And I even on just a literal story level of what is going on. Kubrick famously is an atheist, does not believe in the supernatural, he does not believe in third party, higher omnipotence.
So is Clark. So is Clark in this case.
Well, but Clark was obsessed with aliens. He's obsessed with them in his real life. That is something that Clark was definitely interested in. That's what starts the relationship between Stanley Kubrick and Clark. Is this idea of the ET? They actually thought that we were gonna make contact a long time ago. That's what Clark thought. I can't remember exactly why, but they were like, "Yeah, we're like 10 years away." They were making this movie. No, but Stanley Kubrick being a secular person, I don't think that he would kind of give the power of progress and knowledge to some sort of like ethereal being or even whether it was an alien or a god or whatever you want to call it. We would conceptualize an alien as a god because of our understanding of what that means. Because I think, not to, I guess, to give away my thing. I think the movie is all actually happening at the same time. I think when Bowman goes through the Starscape, he goes to a place that is outside of space and time, and everything is folding in on itself. That's why the beginning of the movie is the end of the movie. It's the same thing. It's all happening at the same time. He's broken through. So basically, humanity gets to a point where it literally becomes its own god, becomes its own like arbiter of existence. It literally goes back to help itself. It's like to reach its full potential at the end, which is becoming a star child or whatever. I guess that's like the literalization of the concept.
Yeah, but just taking the film on its own, you don't know what the intentions are of the Star Child, really going back.
No, I mean, well, there's an implication in the book. You can go to the book.
In the book,
yeah. It's a being that is like a nascent being, and it's like, I wonder what's over there. Like that's like the last line in the book, I think.
Yeah.
No, he's like, I don't know what I'll do, but I'll think of something. I think that's what it is. But in the symmetry of the movie, I think thus spake there's see now me, I'm having a problem. Zarathustra, like being at the beginning and at the end like that, and then having like a similar, I think it might even be some of the same shots of the planets and the sun aligning like that. I think that's just telling you that it's the same thing from a different perspective. It's literally the same moment.
Or the reoccurrence theme earlier that inspired the song, right? Or at least the writer that made the song to get it composed. But Kubrick was openly stated at various interviews that the concept of God is strongly prominent, like throughout the film. And I'd say the concept of God and the concept of trying to meet the creator or destroy the creator is also really prevalent in that film.
Yeah, I think on a philosophical level. I don't think it's not literal. In my opinion, it's not literal. It's like just a philosophical concept, like the construct of God, what God represents.
Yeah, well, yeah, everything in this film you got to kind of dig for. Not a lot of things are handed to you. I think that's I think that attributes to a lot of the criticism it got. It was a box office hit, though.
I think like a year later, because they remarketed it as a movie that hippies should go see.
The Ultimate Trip.
Yep.
The Ultimate Trip.
And then I think the poster became the psychedelic shot of Bowman's eye going through the Starscape.
Yeah. No, God damn it! I just had this up. Close that.
Like if you look at the original,
the budget was $10 million, and then it made upwards of $30 million in the box office.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was like, no, it was like a year. I mean, distribution was way different back then. I mean, back then, a movie would be in the theater for 10 years. There was no home video.
Yeah.
So like, it had a second life, like when they configured the marketing. Because if you look at the original posters and stuff, it looks like a prestige movie. Then if you go look at some of the later marketing materials, it looks like a freak out psychedelic movie, like a pop art movie. That's the way they chose to sell it differently. I hear what you're saying as far as that stuff goes, but I think just from knowing a little bit about Kubrick, he was a deeply secular dude. He was a guy that was like, even when he talked to Stephen King about The Shining, he's like, ghosts are bullshit. Like, he doesn't even go that far. Like, he won't even give people that, So I thought it was like, so for Kubrick to kind of like engage with like a literal God scenario that is outside of man's like ability to achieve, like, seems a little just incongruent to me. Not
a literal God, but just like the concept of one, right?
Yeah.
Just all kinds of it's called Space Odyssey. Okay, obviously it's like throwback like to Greek term Odyssey, space troubles, everything. Mm-hmm. There's other like Greek things we'll get into like later into that. And I'm saying and based off each word, the theme of reoccurrence, and is I'm saying you get the same concept of a god grown in a different way. So like through like the humanoids, they're when they see what that is and that they evolve, they have that, and just what that symbol like represents in other areas of human history, like things have come down like in that form before. I use the example of God presented himself like through his inscriptions on the side of the mountain,
Yeah.
well, which is very much like where the monolith first appeared, right? And then you see that with later on in the film, like with Hal being created, his makers, his creators, humans, and then want to succeed that and succeed them, and basically, I had a whole Hal bit too, but like destroy them, destroy their maker because
Yeah.
he is better than his own creator. Which, in the same sense, man exploring out into space, is kind of challenging, the notion of God, seeking to destroy that concept of God as well.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing, out there where we are going to find it, and we're going to shatter like these norms as well. So it just keeps happening.
Well,
In different evolution.
Well, that's what I mean. Like we have the conceptual God that we all have in our brain. We have this kind of higher power concept. It's just basically this is a stand-in for like I don't understand. I don't know. That's what it is. I mean, you look at just religion in general. I mean, that is what it is a stand-in for. Is for things that you can't explain. You have to kind of give over a little bit of your agency to a higher power to like make sense of the world. I think that's a normal thing. I think we all do that. I think the movie basically posits the idea of like literally of the Ubermensch, of like man at some point on a long enough timeline gets there. And then, but man wouldn't know that though. Like, so, we grew up Catholic, right? When people describe the God, one of the things they would always say about God would be that God sees everything at the same time. Everything's happening at once for God. He's omnipotent. He knows all. And I think like the movie kind of posits the idea that like humanity at some point achieves that. Whether it's because they travel so far off into the galaxy, they literally find a place that is beyond space and time as we understand it. Like, that's kind of, I think the last sequence with Bowman in the room, in that room with all the fancy furniture and all the Enlightenment era art and style, you're literally watching time collapse around him. And he's like kind of aware of it, semi-conscious of it.
Right.
And then it's not until he's on his deathbed that he like reaches out to be more, to still want more. He still wants more. The monolith appears to him. He reaches out to the monolith, cuts to the monolith. We cut back, Star Child. Like he's transcended man. Does that make sense? Am I just rambling? I could be just rambling. This is the problem when you like just think about things for 2 weeks and you don't talk to anybody about it. But I think I'm right.
But of course, I mean, at the end of the day, if you get an emotion out of it, or it gets you thinking, then Kubrick is achieving his goal with it, because it is left so ambiguous for everyone to take it. We talk about this with the classical music all the time. What's it about? Doesn't matter. What's it mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
You go through that journey, and if you're patient enough, you listen, you can have get in that space to enjoy what is being presented to you. Then
and I think Kubrick. That's why Kubrick didn't like the book. Kubrick didn't like the book, and the reason he didn't like the book, he's like, it tells you too much. He's trying to give you an experience. He's trying to engender a feeling inside of you, like you said, make you think about something. Like, how do you feel about it? Because Kubrick, like post this movie, basically just stops talking to people. Like he just doesn't want to explain it to you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's take it back. Unless you have something, do you have anything else to add to that?
Not to that part.
I mean, if you want to say that, Sean, you're a genius and you're right, I mean, that's fine. You can do that.
Yeah. No, let's hop on to another theme.
All right. So let's
Dawn of Man.
Yeah, let's go to the Dawn of Man. Okay, so this whole Dawn of Man sequence, 25 minutes long, not a word spoken, incredible. An incredible, riveting sequence. Do you think so? Do you
Very
agree?
much so. I even had my 10-year-old and my 5-year-old. They both sat there and they watched the whole thing. They actually watched it all the way up until they see Dr. Haywood, and then they're like, "All right, this is lame." But that it captivated them from the Dawn of Man, that whole transition up until the first line of dialogue speaks, and they're like, "All right," and they walk away. Yeah, I can't blame them. But like, yeah, but no, they were all about that, all about that. So who had the better monkeys? Charleston Heston and Planet of the Apes in here. I asked the real questions here. I
Well,
asked
I think, well, obviously very different monkeys.
yeah.
I mean, like, but the whole sequence, like what it's able to convey about the concept of like of what necessitates evolution is it's kind of it's like very powerful. It's like this powerful idea of like it's this not everybody gets to live. It becomes a fight or flight thing almost at some point because it kind of presents them that they're starving, they're dying out. There's bones everywhere.
Hmm.
There's skeletons everywhere of them, and they're
Yeah.
foraging for fucking roots and these dry plants in the desert. And it takes place in Africa, the cradle of civilization, as they say.
Hmm.
And it's not until well, what happens, right? And then like another ape tribe, kind of comes in and they fight. They aggressively yell at each other for the watering hole.
Hmm.
Like they haven't even conceived of this idea that you could be violent to each other. Like this is like such a nascent concept. It's not until the monolith shows up, and then the ape Moonwatcher, as you find out his name in the book, uh, basically discovers tools, a crude tool. He discovers destruction, discovers violence, and it's one of the best sequences in the entire movie. Is when he grabs the bone, he starts smashing the skeleton, and then
Hmm.
it's intercut with the wild boar falling.
Yep.
Oh, it's so good. It's so perfect. And then it cuts to him just eating meat, and then it cuts to them all eating meat, and then suddenly behind them, it's a little bit greener. There's like grass and stuff. It's like this
Yeah.
giant metaphor for moving forward.
Well, that when and you cut out the population that's grazing all the grass, tends to
That's
tends
what
to
I'm
grow.
saying. Yeah, it's like this
Yeah.
kind of
The
ecological circle of life.
Yeah, but you just see it there at the Dawn of Man too that this goes back to the recurrent theme. It's just at our primal basic instinct that we will have groups and we will fight over resources and we will be afraid or unnerving of an opposing group,
Yeah.
whether they look like us or they don't.
Well, that's the thing.
As we,
But it was cool but it starts at a place that they didn't even realize they're too stupid to even know that they can do that.
yeah,
That's in and like you said, they're amongst this population of wild boars that are eating all of their food,
hmm,
and they're too fucking stupid to shush, go away.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
You know, and it's so cool that it starts like literally at a moment in time before you even knew that you could fucking hit somebody. And
Yeah,
it's one of these themes that's echoed like throughout the movie. This kind of and it just takes different contexts, like this idea of kind of like tribalism and this because it reminded me of when is it Hayward? No, Floyd. When Floyd shows up to the space station, he has that like weird little chat with those Russian people from the
hmm,
Russian space station, and it's
yes,
like this really passive aggressive.
yes,
I was like, oh, this is like the watering hole. This is like the first time when the apes meet and they're just yelling at each other.
exactly.
Yeah.
And again, is there an epidemic? Is there a pandemic on the moon or not? Like, what are you doing? Like, you got to share this knowledge with us. What's happening? And just bring that. It's
But
like,
because it becomes
uh,
about tribes, it becomes about America versus Russia. And who is in the ape world, it's just about is my line going to survive or is yours? Am I going to be able to drink the water? Am I going to be able to eat the boar? And on a basic level, that's what's important. But then you take that 4 million years later, and we're having just another version of that. Is
yeah,
America going to be in control? Does America get to fucking decide what happens on the moon?
right.
You know?
So that it's like 'cause while we're on the Dawn of Man, I just figured that was one of my favorite Kubrickisms of this film was the bone toss. After they realized that, they knock
Oh,
out the leader of the tribe, and the scene. He throws it up, and then it cuts into the spaceship
yeah.
going there. But then I'd say it keeps cutting even more from the spaceship down there all the way to the final and to the pen floating there
Yes.
by Dr. Hayward's there, and then pen being the new bone, and the adage the pen is mightier than the sword, everything. So here's the new tool that man's going. It's like
Well,
cycles
yeah.
back, and
That's
like
what.
here's the new tool that we have, and we're going to go on this and go voyage on for more resources or wherever the case may be. So that whole sequence lays out like the main superficial theme that just transpired from the dawn of man, and then the new pen, which is the new bone, gets returned to man to embark on another feat for the human race moves
Yeah.
forward. So that was like one of my that whole scene and just sitting there and take it back like that was just that was beautiful.
Well, it's such an
Loved it.
it's such an elegant way to wordlessly communicate an idea. Like this idea of like this is a tool, this is something we use to do something. Throws it up, fucking hard cut into a spaceship. Like now, like we've gone 4 million years from the bone.
Right.
Like that's what that whole sequence is about. When I was a kid, dude, so I saw this when I was like 16 or 17. Got it from the old Royalston Library. Bored out
Yeah.
of my fucking mind. Cause like there's like it's like a 10-minute sequence of Blue Danbu playing, and like the space waltz is what they refer to it as. And it's just a shit. But like when you're now, I can see what they're doing. They're just showing you how far we've come from the bone. That's literally the whole point. But I think what you said about like how it ends with the pen is actually that's pretty apt. Like that's a good read, Paul.
Thank you, Sean.
I mean, your Star Child take is just dog shit, but I like the pen.
Well, the thing about the Star Child take is that there's infinite amounts of Star Children out there, and it doesn't fucking matter what your take is or my
Incorrect.
take. So,
Incorrect. Mine is the definitive one.
but yeah, no, it just Donna Man just go like bleeding right in, just right into that space station, and the reason why it's important, obviously, because we find out what the monolith is, or reintroduced to that from seeing it previously in the Dawn of Man, and then it gives us very like subtle things of like how we have evolved from apes, but we're still like tribal, we're still like on edge, and we're still trying to figure out. And wasn't that such a great scene when they get on the moon and they're going to see the monolith, and then they circle around the same way that the apes did 4 million years ago, and just kind of touching that monolith. So I mean, that was great. And then it just cuts out into the the Voyager, but like anything you wanted to talk about, like the space station scene with Dr. Hayward, because I will tell you what, like when I mentioned earlier about Kubrick films trying to like, get out of the escape room, I watched that film about that clip where he's like speaking to his daughter about everything, trying like, is there anything in this scene right now? What's going on with this? And then she asked for that toy, and I kept looking at it. Remember I sent you?
Yeah.
Thing.
Yes.
I just kept looking at it and be like, no. From the '60s, this.
No, I think to me the thing that stuck out was this kind of subtext of the desire to communicate, because she asked for a phone as a present.
Yeah.
So there's this idea of communication that is kind of set there during that scene. There's also, they just mention actually birthdays a lot in the movie. There's that scene. There's the scene with
Frank
Poole, where he's talking to his family, wishing him a happy birthday. Hal talks about his birthday as he's dying.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure what that means, but it's there. Like there's actually a consistent like pattern there. And I don't know if that's just like Kubrick kind of trying to create like even deeper layers of symmetry where everything is kind of repeated. I don't know. But that's kind of what I picked up on it. It was kind of like this desire to communicate, to be connected. Because Floyd, Dr. Hayward, is lying. He's a liar. he gives a press conference, or he's not at a press conference, rather. He's at a meeting where he's basically doing the bidding of the council, which I thought was an interesting piece of texture that's just never explained. It's like,
Right.
so the world is run now by a council. And
Yeah.
and they're like, yeah, we have to lie. We're going to lie. And I'm going to make you all sign a piece of paper that says you're going to lie. And
Hmm.
you're going to accept it. It's actually kind of a sinister corporate man.
Personally, I think the lie is terrible. But I could have come up with a better one. But no, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, he's like, it's embarrassing.
Yeah,
Well, because
yeah,
he's like, it's like this. It's Kubrick again, kind of tipping his hat to you of like showing you how gross kind of power can be,
yeah,
like, and how casual it is about it. And this is something we talked about with Doctor Strangelove. But he does not draw your attention to it. He doesn't. But if you just think about what is actually happening, what is actually said in that room, you're like, oh, that's very like insidious. It's very underhanded, like what's going
yeah,
on, and getting everybody to sign a piece of paper that will say like either you go along with this or you, I assume, go to jail, go to space jail, maybe. I don't know.
yeah. You'll have an accident. You'll have an accident in space.
Yeah.
That's where that happened. But yeah, but like pen's mightier than the sword. I am going to control, and we were going to roll like with
Yeah.
this now. No longer going to crush you in the head with a bone.
Do you think? Do you
Well,
think?
it's like, go ahead and sign this NDA.
Listen, everything is basically a penis. We all know this.
Yes.
Everything is a penis. Everything is phallic. The pen is phallic. The bone is phallic. The ship is phallic.
Yeah.
Just dicks everywhere, dude.
So many dicks.
Well, we'll get into that when we talk about fucking A Clockwork Orange. There is dicks everywhere. Um, but yeah, no, I think you're right. Like it's this kind of just this insidious like power play that is much darker than it is presented. But that's how it would be presented in real life. Nobody's gonna give you some sort of dark, ominous speech and twirl their mustache. They're gonna do it in a corporate setting, like playing nice guy. Nice
Nobody's
guy Floyd.
leather trench coat talking about how this is going to roll out.
Yeah, it's not Starship Troopers, everybody. Like, it's not that. It's just but that's as an adult and just somebody that loves doing these talks and watching the movies in the way that we're like kind of being hypercritical of them, right? To try to just dig deep into them. When you
Yeah.
it's just it shows you that if you just pay attention to shit, it pays off. Like, because you just would not know what the fuck is going on in this movie if you're not paying attention to the boring parts. The boring parts are the talking parts in this movie. But they're so important. They're so fucking important. So subtle. I don't know what it would have been like if it had been more conventional. I think it would have been boring. That's kind of actually why I think on the back end of the Kubrick series, we watched 2010 and we read the book, because I think that is a much more conventional story. It's more of a literal adaptation of Arthur C. Clarke's book, but it's also posited as a sequel to the movie. It's supposed to be a sequel to 2001.
Yeah, it's got John Lithgow, so
Yeah, it's got Paul Schrader? Not Schrader, no. The guy from Jaws. Schneider. Roy Schneider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bought it on digital the other day, so.
Oh, nice.
Getting ready.
Yeah. Yeah, but now they're on to the Voyager, out of the space station. We never see the space station again.
No. Now we jump 18 months into the future. The Jupiter mission, or is that what it's called, the Voyager? Or is it called the Odyssey?
No, it's not called the Odyssey. Odyssey's actually never said in the film or the book.
You don't remember when that guy looked into the camera when he was in his spaceship, and he pulls up next to this other spaceship and he says, "Man, 2001's been a crazy space odyssey, man."
It must have been in the director's cut, the extended cut.
That's an old.
It's got the HD on Amazon. So.
That's an old Upright Citizens Brigade bit. Matt Walsh's character works in a movie store, and he tries to trick this dude that comes into the store every day, telling him that he was in all these movies, but he was cut out. He's like, "I have the titular line in Star Wars." And he's like, And then he says it about a bunch of movies, but they're always the same line. He's always like in a car pulling up to somebody. He's like, "Man, I really hate all these Star Wars. Man, I
Second,
really need to get out of Africa, huh?"
second, the second Upright Citizens Brigade reference this set. So, boom, boom. I done
Yeah.
goofed. We done goofed.
Well, it's an interesting thing. One last interesting note about this section, because so the movie has a few title cards, right? So we have Dawn of Man. The next title card doesn't happen until Jupiter mission 18 months later.
Yep.
Almost like the implication that the Dawn of Man takes 4 million years.
Exactly. Well, fuck you for taking a note.
You got to get there. You got to be quick, buddy.
Gotta be quick. Gotta be quick.
No, I'm telling you, these linear notes are way better than my normal just thoughts everywhere. Me trying to find them.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta outline, man. You gotta outline.
We're always trying to make Zoobox Goes to the Movies a better experience for more than just us. So.
Yeah. So yeah, get into 18 months into space. I think they did a great. The book really does a very detailed description of how mundane everything is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the film, even though it's slow, it's kind of fascinating, but still captures the mundane day-to-day things that they're going to do. It just thinking about too, it's the 60s. Gravity, got all the space food. They're drinking this there, and then they got these embedded TVs in the plate. So what? These tablets, these monoliths.
What?
What?
What? It's almost like it's embedded in our DNA.
Yeah. But it was great, and not to be like on the book's dick this whole time, but as he was going on there, Clark was literally describing the internet. Get that when he's talking about throwing up all the day's feeds and everything like that, and selecting what. I was just like, oh man,
because
that's so crazy because that would have.
Yeah, but Clark was plugged into that world. They knew, because actually part of what starts their journey working together is the 1964 World's Fair. Kubrick and Clark. They actually had video conferencing. It was already a thing in the 60s. If you can believe that. They actually had figured it out. I don't know how good it was or whatever, but there's a nascent version of it in 1964. Wild shit. So Clark probably had a lead into, because that is kind of the birth of the internet, is in that era. That's when those things are starting. These communication networks and these information networks. So I bet you he's doing what science fiction authors do. He knows something and he extrapolates.
Yeah. Well, Arthur was a classical trained scientist. He was part of the Forrest was a radio comms guy and everything. So he knew what he was talking about. So, and he was also actually, because of Dr. Strangelove, that's when they met. That really put Kubrick on the map, because Clark was a big thing, on his own regard there. But he was in that space. Rand Corporation, and then they synced up, so that was good. But just kind of get into that. 18 months. That's the next chapter into this, and reading the book and then going into this, and just it happened really fast. So just kind of break down that scene leading up to the infamous house scene. What did you?
There's so much that goes on before that. I mean, even just the way the scene starts with the cut to the ship, then we cut into the ship. Frank Poole jogging again in a circle.
Yep.
Almost implying this kind of hamster on a wheel thing. That's what I think once you see the movie on repeat viewings, you start seeing those two astronauts, just Poole and Bowman, as their tools from somebody else. They're Floyd's tools. They're there to facilitate something. They're not even the guys that are going to go off to see wherever the origin of the signal is.
Right.
Those guys are in hypersleep, and they were trained. They were trained separately, and they were put in hypersleep before they left, which is unconventional. Something that it's not normal.
Right.
So they're just like the drivers.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of when you on repeat viewings you start picking up on stuff like that.
We also get the indication too, because not only were they, gaslit from the real mission of this too. Also in that birthday sequence, you hear with Frank Poole is that he's like having money problems. They're trying to get his money right. So that's also like a subtle indication that they're not important, like to
Yeah.
this at all as well. Like you said, they're like bus drivers for
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. And it's kind of cool because it's just like, I think we inherently just like kind of assume they're important because they're there and they're spacemen. They're part of, but like the subtext is like, no, they're not. They're actually just they're technicians. They're the grease monkeys, for lack of a better way to put it.
Well, you think 18 months into the mission, right? And then they're going in. The first time we're sitting there, getting their little space breakfast, and they're sitting down, and they're watching an interview. They're watching a recording of them being interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, this wasn't from space. They were like sitting together with another person out that way. So this is over a year old. So they're sitting down there watching, like, oh, look, we're on TV, which is like another thing of like that doesn't happen a lot for these people because they're not important. And so,
well, there's all like that interview, that BBC program they're watching is incredibly revealing. You learn a lot about them, but you also learn a lot about Hal. Hal is asked questions like as if he's a person. He asks, "Do you get nervous, Hal?" And Hal responds like in a more human way than Bowman and Poole do. They're very matter of fact, by the book. Hal's like much more almost like projects himself as like a sensitive person. And the question is it programming? Or is he actually feeling things? Is this like sincere in the way we conceptualize emotion? And Bowman himself is just like, I don't know. I mean, they programmed him to act this way so that we could have a better working relationship, basically. But at what point does it cross over? And if it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Because we're all kind of, you can make the argument that everybody is a product of some type of programming, right? When you start taking a broad view of why we feel the way we do about things or what informs our decisions. So when you think about Hal, you got to think about this idea of like this nascent life that's just kind of figuring things out, just feeling things out. And Hal's journey is kind of a microcosm of the entire movie's journey about self-actualization.
Yeah. So I think his character really also plays into this, the concept of destroying God because of his superior programming. He renders the conclusion that I'm going to destroy.
Well, he's asked in that interview. So do you find it annoying that you have to work with people that aren't as smart as you, basically, that aren't as capable as you? You have to rely on these flawed human beings to be able to execute on what you know needs to be done. And he says, no, I find our personal relationship very stimulating. So the only thing that could stop Hal from killing everybody is that he likes you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's that's what I'm saying. It's like this really interesting, one of the most like deep conversations about like the kind of self-actualization of a thinking machine or AI probably ever on screen. And it's just done it in a very simple, elegant, reductionist way. I mean, this is something that entire movies are about this, like Ex Machina or something like that.
Right. Minimalism, another huge theme of art in the 60s. There you go, Kubrick. There you go. Tying it all in. But no, like it's since we're on the how thing, like did you read that academic paper on the chess game? So like when he cheats Poole in the chess game, like, and there's so many other sources that they'll point out, like this is the exact game of this famous game from 1910. This I wrote it down, Rosh for Schloss. They'll kill me on the pronunciation, but going into looking into the German guy Schloss, he would demand in tournaments to have like swastikas on his chessboard, all this other Nazi propaganda.
Wow.
I'm serious that he would do that.
Oh, I buy it. Yeah.
This was pre World War, like get into this, and the superior. He was a grandmaster chess player and everything, and that was kind of look into like why was that game played specifically, and that was Hal's and the movements he was doing were the ones Hal was mimicking, and it just kind of is that like a subtle nod to like what the Nazis did with a lot of Europe, was that like how's like conclude they render up that conclusion like, well, this is what we need to do with the human race, because it's always human error. Everything's attributed to human error,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that's what
And
he
if he
says. Yeah, that's what he says later
he
too.
literally says that later, like with the AE-35 unit, like he's like, no, it's
Well,
all
because
human error.
that's Kubrick was a lover of chess. He was actually a chess master in his own right, right? So I guarantee you that was like a nice little joke by him.
Yeah.
And it's also plants a seed that you only know if you know it. Hal can be manipulative. Hal can be unfair.
Yeah.
Hal wants to win.
Hal cheated at chess.
Well, what does it mean if you cheat, though? What does that mean? That means you care. That means you want to win.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like there's so many implications from the concept of like cheating. Like it's not just cheating. It's not just like in a vacuum. Like, oh, he cheated. Like, no, that means a lot. That says a lot about Hal.
Yeah, and
I mean, Clark is a fucking.
take it back to the BBC like interview, right? So if he's like cheating, blatantly cheats with the pull, and pull doesn't catch it or call him out on it, is he even being stimulated anymore? Right? A lot of people like point out that his eye, the red dot, like recedes a bit, showing like anger when he says, "Thank you for the lovely game." Like so now he's like, "Oh man."
Well, it's kind of like when you play with a kid.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how he views people. They're like children.
Well, I do want to kill kids, so
every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, but I mean that's it's a really clever and subtle way to plant a seed of something, because it does not draw your attention to the fact that he cheated. I didn't realize that until it was pointed out to me. I had no idea.
No, you'd have to go ahead and focus. And even after I read how it played out, I still had to watch and see like what the like, and just like fair enough. It's not you have to really look.
Because that's because Kubrick is the master.
That's why he put it there, for the people that are going to look and know that. So
For the nerds.
I mean, yeah, but it just that game specifically, and then like with Hal, and just wanted to wipe that out, and then if Hal, and this is jumping ahead a little bit, but like if Hal knew that the monolith was some high-speed technology that advanced intelligence, would that's how they would personify themselves. They went, instead of like the old organic like matter, this is what they're going to do. Then why wouldn't you have me instead of Frank?
Yeah, exactly.
Or anybody else? This has got to be a Hal 9000 that needs to go in here, because why would you have them in there? They can't even win chess.
Well,
they
that's
can't even win a chess game.
Well, or they can't catch me cheating. Like they're monkeys. They're monkeys compared to me. I think that's what that like cheating implies. All of that.
Mm-hmm.
It implies this notion of like pride and deceptiveness and like maybe an arrogance to a certain degree. Because those guys are so passive, they don't even notice. They don't even notice. It's almost like he's like passive aggressive with them. Like they don't really treat me like I'm a person, for lack of a better way to put it. They don't treat me like I'm alive.
Yeah. Yeah. Back to the BBC interview. Like, oh yeah, I'm another crew member. Okay. Why you gotta go in C-Pod to have a little fucking conversation? We're going to turn off all the green switches, huh?
Well, that brings us to the malfunctioning piece of equipment, the AE-35. Now, the big question with the AE-35 is, was it actually broken? Did Hal make a mistake? And what does that mean? Because they take it, they go out, they on a repair mission or whatever you want to call it, they go in the pod, they go get the piece, they bring it back, find out that it's fine. Hal predicts that in 72 hours, it'll completely fail. Even to prove his point, after they find out that it's not broken, Hal says, put it back and let it fail. Just to show you that I'm not lying, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's the question. Now, do you think Hal made a mistake? In the book, yes. Yes. And that's very clear.
It almost sounds like a broken record, but that's why I wish I never read the book before watching this to do this. So,
but I just think the intention is completely different. I just think they're telling a different story at that point.
Yeah.
In my interpretation of it is that Hal did make a mistake, and that's actually what makes Hal become self-aware. Because suddenly he panics, basically, and wants to prove himself to them again, and then gets cut out of the social group.
Well, knowing the bit about the chess game, and if he made that mistake there, and then because also it's important to point out when did he tell them that there was an error? What happened right before he told them there was an error?
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, I completely glossed over that. Good point, Paul. It's when he was trying to have a personal conversation with Bowman, with Dave, and he's trying to basically feel Dave out.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "What? Do you know what's going on? Do you think any of this is weird?" And for me, I'm like, "Is he feeling Dave out?"
Running around in hamster wheels, doing all the mundane shit, not paying what happened. I know the whole point of what's happening here. Aren't you asking? Don't you want to know something? Like that's
Well, that's the question. Is he feeling Dave out for what he knows, or is he trying to lead Dave to a conclusion? You know what I mean? Is he trying to say like, maybe you should be thinking about this?
Yeah.
Maybe you should be thinking about this, Dave.
Yeah.
Or is he just trying to see what Dave knows? Have you been messing around? You've been thinking about things, Dave? You shut the fuck up, Dave.
Well, you're drawing a bunch of sketches of the people that you've never met. They're all in, hibernation. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, why are you thinking about them so much? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that happens. And then he's like wait for it. He's like looking for a problem too, because Dave basically responds like, "Are you making a psychological profile of me?"
Mm-hmm.
And Hal's just like, well, I guess so."
Got me. Oh, hold on. AE35 unit gonna fail. Whoo.
Yeah, it's like to obfuscate the conversation, to get off of the topic, because maybe either Dave has found him out or Hal heard what he needed to hear.
Right.
And he just wants to end the conversation. So that's just another interesting layer of Hal. Is like what is, and that's what I love about the ambiguity of the movie, because you can just kind of game theory that all day. Like you could just talk about Hal for 4 hours. Like what is Hal? What is his intention?
Yeah. Yeah. Did he want to break through with them, or did he want to what was in it?
Yeah, was he trying to make a connection, like a legit connection with Dave, and Dave kind of rebukes him, so he gets pissy.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, but so they get him out there. He goes out, replace that unit. Requires him to physically leave the space shuttle, get in a small pod to go up around and replace that unit and the antenna. Then come back and go in there, and they find out, oh, well, we got to go put it back on, because if my sensors are indicating that it's going to fail, and the actual unit itself, it's fine. Let's put it back in and see what else might happen. So then someone goes out. So, which I thought was different. So, why did Bowman go out initially, replace it, and why did Poole go out do this? Were they just taking turns?
Probably. I mean, you got to think about, if you're just the garage guys, like, I did it last time. You go out there, man. Like, I don't want to do this right now. You go do it. Yeah. Your turn.
Oh. You're going to do this. So
actually, before they go out to do that with Frank, and Frank getting attacked basically by Hal, because they're discussing with Hal, like, are you sure there's never anything, no mistakes have ever been made? Are you sure? And he's like, no, no, God, come on, guys, and then Bowman, like, one of the only times he shows emotion, he flashes a smile at Hal. And then he's just like, oh, it's okay. We're just going to go check out this pod that I've been having trouble with. It's like, it's all right, Hal. Like, that's literally the only time in the movie I think he ever smiles or emotes at all, is to use emotions as as a manipulative force, for a negative force. Very interesting.
Oh. Well, he gets emotional when he's trying to get back in the pod. So,
well, he's almost panicked. He's almost panicked, But he's been taking them stress pills like a good boy. Yeah, that is like probably, and that scene itself is just so intense. It's like this extrapolation of like the idea of like when your car won't start. It's like Hal telling you he won't open the pod bay doors.
Yeah.
Like, just start.
Yeah.
I'm fucking stuck. I gotta go. Like,
yeah, this conversation, nothing else will come of it. Must end. But I mean that whole scene, it just, and then coming. So Dave goes in and tries to save Frank Poole's floating body, right? And here's a point I want to bring back up about the recurrence, right? So he goes out in the other pod. He just drawn out scene. He gets Frank Poole and he starts bringing him back there, and then Hal won't let him back in there. And so in order for Frank to get into the I'm sorry, in order for Dave to get back into the bridge, he needs the two arms in the pod to actually open it up. So then he, like, coldly, like no emotions, just discharges Frank to like go float out that way. And so if you go back into the Dawn of Men, when the humanoids are down there, they hear the leopard going out snagging another human. They're all sitting down there like quiet, and like we can't do anything. We just got discard because we don't have the tools. We don't have the tools yet. We don't know what to do. We can't combat that. And so just kind of disregard that. Like, yeah, we hear like one of us, being like torn apart, but they don't have like those emotions. They don't have, the means like to do anything about it. So now here he is. He has the inclination. He went out there in a rush to get him. He forgot his helmet to get back in to the pod to go rescue Frank, and now he's in this situation where I got discard him to go do this really risky thing to get injected into space without a helmet to get in this emergency airlock.
yeah.
So it's just back the recurrence. So this is the second chapter from the Dawn of Man, and it kind of recurs back into.
It all goes back to this notion of fight or flight. It's live or die. It's live or die time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all other things go out the window. I have a personal theory that I think that drives humanity forward. I call it the survival ethic, that every single action you take in your life can be tracked back to the notion of wanting just to live, from the broadest of spectrums. And I just think that's just an example of that. Suddenly all your sense of decorum, right and wrong, whatever, goes out the window. I need to live. I need to fucking live. I need to live on. Like, I need to, propagate my seed. It keeps going in these, you could keep going in broader and broader terms. But like, for me, that's, kind of an example of that. And especially when you go back to the Dawn of Man stuff, I mean, that is what that is.
Yeah.
It literally is that. Like,
at the most basic level, right?
Yeah, the most primal thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Back in the Hal, when Dave is going back in, like, what are you doing, Dave? I believe I'm entitled to a question. Like, you just killed the whole, like, everybody in hypersleep. And, like, you just killed the only guy he's been talking to for the last 18 months. And you just tried to kill him by not letting him back in. You're entitled? You're entitled? Like, it was just such a crazy choice of words, right?
Well, because he feels like, that's what I mean about, I think Hal, in my opinion, I don't think it was a thought out thing. I think Hal literally makes a mistake because he wants to obscure the conversation that he was having. He searches for a problem and maybe either can't find it or just makes a mistake. And that is the most humanizing thing he does. And then after that, he kind of understands like some type of self-worth and the desire for self-preservation. I mean, that whole scene is so heartbreakingly pathetic. I mean, Hal's just begging him. He's like, can't we talk about this, Dave?
Yeah.
Yo, dude, take your fucking stress pills, Dave. Chill.
In so many films throughout the years when you have, there's always that scene where somebody's dying and the person's trying to comfort them before they die, and then they'll do something silly, like saying something or just talking to them, hey, you're going to make it, whatever the case is. And this is like the opposite. And then when Hal decides he's going to sing Daisy, which is, it's got a lot of technical history with IBM, like a lot of people like have used that song for different types of AI voice simulations, right? And so, which, by the way, IBM, Whirlpool, Pan Am, like huge product placement, right? That's how they got that 10 million
Well,
to
it's
the $12
interesting.
million budget.
It's interesting. IBM was supposed to be a much bigger product placement in the movie, and then they read the script and they're like, "Oh, we don't want to think IBM makes killer robots." So all IBM is now just on Bowman's spacesuit. Like you just see IBM.
There's a spacesuit and some of the radars within the pod, and then
Okay.
in the,
All right. Some of that stuff, yeah.
You'll
But
see it.
apparently, it was supposed to be a much more pronounced thing that they maybe would even name them.
And on the space station, you had there was like the Hilton. There's a Howard Johnson. You know,
We gotta have their Howard Johnsons in space. Come on.
you gotta have Howard Johnson.
What is actually? I don't even know what the fuck a Howard Johnson is. To be honest with you, not a big fast food guy or a restaurant person. So
Yeah, but that was like a chant. That was like a Denny's type of thing, right?
actually, I think you're right. We're doing it on the fly, folks. Howard Johnson. That's a hotel. Or it is now.
Yeah. That makes sense, because what was it? I'm trying to think what was in the film.
Oh, it's a seafood.
Like,
It's a seafood place.
could have worked either way on a space station. Well, actually, yeah, think about that. Space crabs? What the fuck are they doing on the space station?
I mean, we don't even like fucking eating that stuff when you're 100 miles from the coast. Imagine if you're a million miles from the coast.
I know. Jeez.
Josie Grossi. Although maybe by that point they'd figured it out, you know?
Maybe they figured it out. What were you saying? How get destroyed? People dying in other films, trying to be comfort them on their way out. It was like the opposite. I was like, would you like me to, as he's losing all his higher functions, would you like me to sing the song? And then didn't you think that was interesting how Dave's like, yes, sing it for me, Hal.
Well, because it's like, you know, there's the moment there where you almost sense that Dave is sad. He's gotten to know Hal over the past 18 months. It's been Hal, Frank, and Dave.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I pulled some quotes from the thing because it is like, it's actually like really intense. It's like really sad.
Yes.
Like, I've made some poor decisions lately. I'm afraid. My mind is going, Dave.
I feel my mind. I'm losing my mind.
This is my birthday. I know a song. My creator taught me a song. Can I sing it for you? Like, you know what I mean? It's just like really dark because it's man killing its child. It's man killing its creation. It's God sending the flood. This kind of abstract way, right? It's very dark.
It's about sacrificing your son on the mountain before God intervenes.
Fucking Abraham. What a bitch.
But it never did.
What a needy bitch this Abraham is. God doesn't like me. I guess I'll kill my son. It's a joke, everybody. Calm down.
I wish God would tell me that. I'd have excuse me. What? You don't want to go to hell,
Who am I to question God?
Tell me.
Until everybody finds out that you are God.
Yes. Because I figured out the monolith, and Sean did not.
I'm telling you, I figured that shit out, dude. I'm telling you. You gotta watch that movie 10 more times. Come talk to me. We're gonna reconvene in 2 years. We're gonna do this again. We're gonna do it again.
I'll just pay your buddy Rob Egger like some money to tell you you're wrong.
No, that's not a Rob Egger thing. Because I went back and checked because I was concerned. I was like, did Rob Egger get in my head? And no, that's not a Rob Egger thing. That's a Sean Deegan original. Because I've always had that idea, even when concerning time travel. So we think about the paradox of time travel, and I was just always like, well, anything that's happened has already happened. Like it just always happened. So if one day in the distant future we discover time travel, well, then we're living in the reality that it produced. There is nothing else. It's like static in that way. Anyways, go read some more books, you fuck.
Yeah. but Dave doesn't know yet that he's the only living person on the ship. So he is killing the only, live, if you will, like being on the ship.
Yeah.
So it's very, very dark and morbid scene.
Well,
And then that pre-recorded brief comes up back with Dr. Hayward talking about what's happening. And then that's when you get into the next chapter.
Well, I mean, but the thing with just going back for a moment to the Hal stuff, it's just like you don't realize until that moment that the whole movie has been setting you up to empathize with Hal more than the people almost. Hal is a much more richer character than Dave or Frank. Like, you almost like can understand where Hal is coming from. Hal just wants to fucking
He's the most human thing on the ship. And you could say, like you brought up earlier with Frank Poole just disingenuously looking at the recording of his parents, giving them, that. And he's like, and after the fact, like, Hal didn't need to say happy birthday to Frank. He just had that, he just presented the video from his parents on that, and just, happy birthday, Frank. Falling back on there.
Nice guy Hal.
Really,
he's the most personable character in that
right.
scene. Maybe in the whole movie.
Compliments Dave Bowen on, his drawing. So you come a long way with that before that. And then just trying to gauge, like,
and connect with them. He's trying to connect with them. And the question is that programming to make the astronauts feel better about their circumstance, or is it sincere? That's the question. I don't think it's ever definitive. Even at the end, even when he goes into fight or flight mode, and Dave is pulling the memory banks away from him, and he's slowly devolving. Even at that moment, are you like, is this a genuine sense of loss and feeling, or are you just trying to save your program? Are you trying to facilitate the mission still, basically? And you've been programmed to respond this way to adverse action.
He's the most human, relatable character in the film, but it doesn't mean that he's not vicious or malicious. Well,
hey man, listen, Hal's a great guy, but I wouldn't let him watch my kids. You know what I'm saying? He's a good guy, but I wouldn't let him watch my kids.
Maybe restrict the baby monitors, and that's it. They won't be able to control the door locks or anything like that. No, we'll be fine. But no, he's the only one that knew the true point of the mission, right? And he thought that Dave, he would be able to write him off. He basically, in like a very snotty way, this conversation has no longer serve a purpose. Goodbye, Dave. Like, fuck you. You're going out there and you'll meet up with like Frank Poole out that way. While Dave was trying to get back there, he already killed the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
Hey, right? And then when Dave makes his way, I'm enthusiastic about the mission. Well,
that's
he wants to.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
No, I was going to say, like, this is one of the questions. Like, is Hal, part of it is obviously Hal wants to live, right? Mm-hmm. But also, does he just think man is unworthy of the journey? Like you had kind of mentioned before, right? Like, I am so much better. If he is self-aware, if he has self-actualized to a certain extent, if he has become kind of human as a consciousness,
right?
He might just be like, why do you get to do it? Why do you get to meet God? I want to meet God. I want to meet God. You know what I mean? Like, that's a possible angle for Hal.
Yeah. Fucking Hal. This one's for Hal, Sean.
To Hal. I'll be singing Daisy for days.
I might be crazy.
But it's though, and this is the only time I think that actually extraterrestrial is ever mentioned is when Hayward or Floyd Hayward's message, pre-recorded message, that they basically, because it signals to you as the audience like, oh, they have reached Jupiter, because it's programmed to trigger once they reach a certain point, and they're all supposed to watch it together.
Mm-hmm.
About the actual intent of the mission, which I'm not sure, because we've already seen Floyd be a little duplicitous. He's a little bit of a liar. So I think when Hal was talking about, like, these guys trained without you. You don't know who they are, what they did, and then they were put to sleep before they got on the ship. I think those guys know. And I think Good Boy Floyd is like trying to
Mhm.
bring equity to the situation, and we're all on the same page. We're all on the same level here,
Right, right.
and it's the only time that alien whatever is brought up in the movie at all.
Well, not really, because when they're talking
Not
about
really.
when they're driving yeah, no, when
This
they're driving
conversation is over. Good night, everyone else.
when they're driving Floyd on the moon cart to go see the monolith for the first time, they're saying we estimate to be 4 million years old, which is interesting because the book said 3 million. Why they need to add, like, they did it on several different occasions where they
Kubrick's
just
just
add.
like this. He's just like this. He's like,
It's
it's
actually because I
different,
kind
Clark. It's different.
that's kind of like I'm so funny. Glad that you brought that up because I thought the same thing. Like, did he just like that's what you get for putting a minuscule detail that doesn't fucking matter. I'm just going to change it because fuck.
Oh no,
Because he's crazy and he's like super smart. But I don't know. That's
it's a piece
projecting
of
like.
information given while they're eating sandwiches, like incidentally, like, oh, that's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
1950s spaceman.
Yeah. No. But when he's talking about this is 4 million years old and it was deliberately buried. Deliberately buried. So yeah, that's implying extraterrestrial life. Who could
Well,
deliberately bury?
what does that mean, dog?
What can deliberately do anything? Higher life form, man. So yeah, it's not the first
Oh,
time.
a higher life form. Why does it have to be a higher?
Another life form, an alien, something like that. What are you going to say? Deliberately buried. It had to
It's
have like
just
thought,
us. It's
intention
just
to
us.
do something.
It's just people from the future. It's just people from the future. That's all. I'm gonna get you someday, buddy. I'm gonna keep talking to you about this for like the next 10 years until you just give in. um,
The
no, okay,
monoliths about iPhones.
no, fuck
I
it.
got you. No, I got it, man. I got it.
The monolith is the cinema screen. A little bit, maybe a little bit. I think there's a layer there. I think it's there. Just because Kubrick is so, for lack of a better word, and in the best sense, a little bit high on his own supply. Like, but in a great way. He would be enough to be like, no, this movie is the monolith.
You scored a 200 on your IQ test, man. Why not be high on your own supply?
Yes, you earned it at that point. Um, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, there's the implication there. Obviously, something buried it there, but they don't use the words like alien or extraterrestrial until the moment that they're watching the pre-recorded broadcast.
Right.
And even that's very vague. I mean,
Yeah.
which I guess how could it not be? Like, because you're like, oh, you're gonna go see see where the signal comes from.
Yeah.
They're gonna tell them. Although, like, wouldn't you think though? In some sort of weird way,
But
there's like a cloak and dagger scenario that's almost like unnecessary. Like there wouldn't. I mean, I guess they had to do it for the secrecy of America, because this American interest, this council, whatever it is just like does not want any other country to know about it.
Right. Yeah. 'Cause in the book, it was directly the president. Dr. Floyd brought a message from the president directly. In the movie, it's the council. It's this. So
That's the Kubrick being like, the self-appointed intelligentsia, class warfare, elitism.
yeah, no, it really is because from the moment you see him, you just don't like Poole. I'm not Poole. I'm sorry, Floyd. Dr. Floyd. You just don't like him. I don't know. Everything about it was just insincere about it. The way he did not see sorry for missing his daughter's birthday at all. And,
Yeah.
His excuses. Well,
Daddy's traveling.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
Well.
he's very smarmy. Very smarmy. It's honestly, like, I know a lot of people criticize this movie for having kind of like these flat characters. They're not characters. They're just like, I actually think that performance is pretty great. And
I'm not saying it's bad performance. I'm saying.
Oh no, I know you're not. I know you're not. No, what I'm just saying, I've heard that a lot. Oh, the characters are like just cardboard. And I think that guy is actually giving a performance that's actually Once you watch it enough times, it feels very fun and playful and in this really kind of morbid way.
Yeah.
Because he feels he's fucking in charge. He knows everything. He's on top of the world. He's eating chicken sandwiches.
I'm not at liberty to discuss that.
Oh,
You
I
know.
love that. I love the line reading on that.
Oh man, yeah. Even with the meeting with the Russians, like it's he meets Dr. Dimitri's wife instead of Dr. Dimitri himself. They're on space, and there's like one of her like colleagues on there that he has the education with, and like in the book, it's like one of his great friends that he doesn't want to talk to. Like
Yeah.
it's
Well,
again, two different experiences, two
oh, for
different
sure.
opinions.
But there's
But
even that's like the one time that Floyd openly acts sinister. He's like, I am not at liberty to discuss this. Like, I'm not going to talk to you. And they try to probe him a little bit
well,
more.
why would you say that was sinister?
Well, it's like maybe sinister is the wrong word.
Because is it back to like because they don't know if it's a resource or not. If we go back to the primal theme of like uh, being against an opposing group, they don't
Yeah.
know what this is, so it could be either good or bad. We don't know, so we're just going to
Well, the sinister intent would be just to cut them out. I'm just not going to include you in the next.
right,
And then in a broad sense, it's like I'm not including you in the next step of human evolution.
right,
Like in the broad meta theme of the movie, right?
right,
That's the implication. He's just like, no, that's everybody's sick on the moon. They got moon AIDS, everybody.
right.
Stay away.
Yeah,
Because they even go so far as they break like a treaty to hide this.
yeah,
Somebody needs to be rescued. They need to do an emergency landing. These Russian astronauts need to do an emergency landing on the moon, and they basically tell them no. And they're
yeah. I
like,
forgot
that's in
about that.
violation of the IAS treaty.
Did they make it all right? Yeah, they made it fine. Oh, that's great to hear.
Oh,
Like
thank God.
just
Thank God.
with the same emotion, and with missing his daughter's birthday. Oh, that's great. That's good. Yeah,
Actually,
they can't make it. So, but the one thing like in the book that and I said I wasn't going to do this, but I'm not trying to like belabor the point too. But like they Clark made it. Interesting comparison. You mentioned like a Project Barsoom, right? Which is another reference to a very old science fiction novel. But basically, Project Barsoom in the book was that they grabbed a sample of people and would drug them and to make them believe that there's actual alien life, and they would introduce them to them. And then they ended up canceling the project and not releasing any of the details to the public because they found out the outcome of that study was that the human race was so xenophobic that it would be our detriment, that we would lose our collective shit if there
yeah,
was actually discovered like alien life, right? And so
yeah,
that was a really like I really enjoyed, and it was just like in passing in the book where he talked about it, but it was just
yeah.
like a cool little take on that too. And then like I wish he touched on that too, because you got a little bit of that with that whole exchange like with the Russians, and we don't know, and this is why we're going to say it's epidemic on the moon. This is why we're going to violate our own treaty with not letting emergency landing happen, because if this is what we think this is, everyone's going to lose their shit, and then we will,
Well,
douse immense.
yeah, that's what Floyd says in the message, right? He's like, if people were to become aware of this, the reason for the urgent secrecy is because if people become aware of this, then people would not know how to feel about it. This is the first instance of tangible information that there is life outside of our solar system, or
Yeah,
there's there's something else out there. This is the first proof of it. Which honestly, people would lose their fucking minds.
yeah.
I'd lose my mind. I'd buy a gun. I'm just joking.
You
No,
don't
but
have
like I think
Jeez,
oh
man.
dude, I'm waiting for that those Donnie Bucks. The next round of Donnie Bucks. Um
Buddy, there you go.
no, I really need to get one. Um
Yes, you do.
well there's just this we've talked about this before, I think in some degree. Like there is the sense in people of in-group preference. We have a natural inclination towards tribalism, whether that is the color of your skin, whether that's your religious beliefs, ideological positioning, whatever. And it's not until you kind of go out in the world and experience things and meet other people where you're like, oh, well, that stuff doesn't really matter that much to your day-to-day experience and trying to survive and get along. Like, it just doesn't. So, it makes sense that experiment went that way, right? Because that's the ultimate form of tribalism. It's humans versus aliens.
Yeah. We will we will fight about that other bullshit another day, but let's go. There's this meme I saw. It was a pizza with a bunch of kiwis sliced up and put on it, and somebody put like, okay, pineapple people, not pineapple people, we need to put our differences aside. We have a common enemy.
Yeah, we need to stop this nefarious force. He's taking it too far. No, I do like what I did like about the book was like kind of this added dimension, this added texture. Like I said, I like Clark. I think he's a great writer. I think he's a good writer.
Yeah. You know who would not lose their minds in this country?
Stanley Kubrick.
No, because he's fucking dead. You know who would not lose their minds? The Mormons.
Oh yeah, because they're ready. They're like, oh, are you gonna take me to my planet?
They already believe, they're going to another planet. The Mormons. And you know what this whole night's been fueled by? Mormon
booze. Mormon booze. Yeah. Don't believe us, guys. We're liars. We're liars.
Layered.
We're a regular old couple of howls over here, okay? Just fucking let it go. Okay, so now we're at the point in the movie where the title card comes up, Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite.
Yes, sir.
So my note for the beginning of this is I literally wrote this down because I'm a super cool guy. I wrote atmospheres, bitches. Atmospheres comes back into play. That beautiful, haunting choral arrangement. I mean, that shit just gets me to my fucking core. I could just I'm serious, man. If I ever want to... I want to play that for my son when I'm mad at him and shut off all the lights and walk towards him.
No, I'm going to. I have some outdoor speakers. I'm going to start. I start off Chapala Day with decorating the house for Halloween. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to start blaring that out.
Dude,
that's going to have up my my Halloween game this fall.
Just fucking atmospheres. Dude, that would be it's unsettling.
I'm actually thinking about making a monolith and doing it too. But
dude, oh my god, I gotta get to your house for Halloween.
Chapala Day, man. Let's make it.
Dude, we got it one day. One day we're gonna do before Foster's too old, at least. Like, Troy can be Floyd. I'm sorry there's not a lot of women in the movie. But, okay, at least could be Moonwatcher.
She'd be a great Moonwatcher.
Exactly. I was thinking that, yeah. Foster will be Hal. I'll be Dave, and you could be Frank. And we're going to have a monolith, and we're going to roll it around in a cart while we trick-or-treat, while we're just, have a Bluetooth speaker blaring atmospheres as we walk around your neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. That would be something. No, oh man, yeah. I'll say it for after this. But my streak gets competitive for Halloween.
I know it is. I know you back at for the folks at home. Paul, Big Paul, as we like to call him on the show, is he's a very competitive person. Like he can't even let a fucking Uno game go.
I'm sorry you had to wait 30 minutes to talk. Okay. I'm sorry.
Sorry. No, I'm just. Well, I don't care about that. I understand you got to do what you got to do. I appreciate who you are, Paul. I appreciate you. If I was Dave and you were Hal, what happened wouldn't have happened. Me and you would have gone into the colorscapes together.
We would have.
Yeah, because we would have been like, oh, we're the guys. We're the beings.
We didn't have to cheat at chess. So we wouldn't even have to cheat at chess. We'd be right there.
I mean, if I was Dave, I would have caught it. I'm not a chump, so. Yeah, so atmospheres plays like it does every time there's a big shift in the movie. Every time there's something new, basically happens that changes the paradigm of what is going on, and then we're greeted to a monolith kind of spinning through space as we are greeted to another image of the planets, which just on their own are just gorgeous.
Yep.
And just this idea of like how small and minuscule not only you are, but human achievement is to the vastness. The universe does not give a fuck. Does
Right.
not care. You've created a spaceship that can literally get to Jupiter, and the universe does not give a shit. The universe just is, and you're a speck. You don't fucking mean anything.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful.
No, a star can explode and just consume everything within a second.
Well, that's the crazy. Like, so when Dave goes, when he goes through the space time portal, whatever you want to call it, what is that? What do you think that is? Do you think he has just reached that far in the galaxy that he's just sucked into something beyond time and space? Do you think he's in the monolith? What do you think?
All right. Last time I'll make a book reference. Don't read the book. If you never watched this movie, don't read the book before you watch it.
Read it after, yeah.
Read it after. In the book, he goes into the monolith.
Yes.
But in this, you can actually make that connection that he does go into the monolith.
No, I think he goes in the monolith.
Okay, he goes in that one. But a part of concept of God and mythology constantly are constant themes throughout the whole movie. So remember that 7-dimensional space thing I sent you earlier from Euclid? The Greeks, the freaking Greeks and their astronomy. So the sequence of n in real numbers can be understood as a location in n-dimensional space. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's essentially a 7-dimensional vector space, any field, such as a 7-dimensional complex vector space, which has 14 real dimensions, can also be referred to as 7-dimensional manifold as a 7-sphere, or a variety of other geometric constructions. So when he goes into that journey in the Stargaze, and then we see those 7 things going there, I think that's kind of a reference to where we're going. We're going to a place that
it's
charted. You don't even know what this is. No one can articulate. It's never happened before for a human.
Yeah, exactly. Based in Euclidean hypothetical notions, right? Because
Exactly.
that's what Euclidean geometry is. That's actually what we use. Scientists to this day use is what's it called? It's like hypothetical physics or whatever. I can't remember the exact term. Where they basically assume that there are places because of math. Or they assume something because of like an equation. That's how we found Planet X. We don't actually know if Planet X exists. We just assume it does because of this equation. But Euclidean geometry has always been about impossible shapes. It's about symmetry. And actually, there's even, like I would say when he's going through the starscape, there's even like kind of a literal interpretation of that or manifestation of that is those diamonds. Yeah. Towards the end of the starscape journey, there's like these. How many diamonds are there? So is there 7? Yeah, the 7 diamonds, right?
Yeah.
Which is what you're talking about. It's this literalization of the concept. And to me, it's just it is literally time and space folding on itself. Like our concept of reality, wherever Dave is going, isn't pertinent. It just doesn't fit the. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so past our ability to conceptualize that like that's what kind of when I get on this kick about like man becoming God. Because we just cannot conceptualize this idea of being in that space, for lack of a better way to put it. Also, when they're going through there's all this landscape photography with color corrected, and it looks like the Dawn of Man stuff.
Yeah, well, it's actually recycled from Dr. Strangelove.
I know what it is. I know that, sir. Don't you fucking dare. Don't you fucking dare. No, I'm joking.
Want to out-nerd me? This will be a battle. But yeah, no, it absolutely is. Absolutely is a Dawn of Man. That 7 diamond illustration in the that put me down a rabbit hole too, just trying to figure out what the hell that meant. Even go back to the Dawn of Man, I was trying to see were they 7 bushes? But no, there's fucking 3. So that didn't work. And so that just, like I said, a Kubrick film is like an escape room. What the fuck does it mean? How do I get out of here? I don't get the clues.
Yeah, but
The door is locked and I need to go to the bathroom. I can't handle this. Ugh.
But that's what's so fruitful about it, though, because even if it doesn't lead anywhere, you actually learned something. Like, you went and looked something up.
Yeah.
And you read about something. Even if it doesn't pertain to the movie itself, you're like, wow, I actually learned something. Cool. Yeah. And I get to take that with me forever. That's why this movie is the monolith, Paul.
Exactly. Just like, was it Dr. Strangelove when I did a deep dive on Jack the Ripper, right?
Yeah.
It got nowhere relative to talk about, Dr. Strangelove.
You learned about Jack the Ripper.
Oh my God. Yeah. More shit than I care for, or the fluoridation movement, But I mean,
But you should know about the fluoridation movement because
you should know about the fluoridation movement because that was real stuff. That really happened.
That did.
Watch your mouth. That really happened. But yeah, no, it just get Stargaze, man. I don't know where you want to go with that because I feel like that was literally something that couldn't be articulated.
Yeah.
But like what we're talking about, like Kubrick, you go through that experience. I think it'd be a bunch of babbling if we tried to explain it, other than just talk about the visual awe that it was, even from 1968. And I kind of talked at the beginning of the kinetic art and everything, kind of like what went through that. So it's very relevant at the time as well. And even now, over 50 years after the fact, it was a trip, watching that as well.
To me, I don't even think Kubrick gave a fuck. I mean, I think he used that as a tool, like knowing about that kinetic art stuff. But like, if you think about the art that was going on at the time, this movie is so formal. It's so painterly. It's like a fuck you to pop art. Because it's so meticulous. It's so grounded. It's everything. So when you have those moments, those psychedelic moments, like the Starscape, like it's so impactful. And when I was a kid, when I first saw this movie, I was like, how the fucking long does this go on for? I was so bored. It was like a Saturday morning, I remember. I'm like looking at, back in the day when you had a DVD player, you had a little timer on the thing, show you the timestamps. I just started fucking fast forwarding through it. Because when I was a kid, like my favorite part is like, oh, it's the hell part. That's the only thing anything fucking happens.
Right.
Well,
the Dawn of Man.
The Dawn of Man. But even back when I was a kid, I didn't even appreciate the Dawn of Man. I was like, oh, cool. He finds a bone and he kills somebody. Like, great. I'm gonna watch The Shining again and not understand that either. But it's got good old Jack Nicholson. If Jack Nicholson had been in 2001 when I was a kid, I would have been like, 2001 is the greatest movie ever made.
Greatest movie ever made, hands down. Well, if Jack Nicholson just voiced Hal, that would have been sweet, right?
Or if he was actually, Jack Nicholson would have been a good Floyd. He'd have been a good Floyd.
He would have been a great Floyd.
Yeah.
Well, let's be honest. Jack Nicholson could have done the Russian chick. Like he had just done whatever the hell he wanted.
Do anything he wants. Actually, Jack Nicholson is the star child.
The star child.
The star child. What if it was just Jack Nicholson's face turning to camera as the star child at the end of the movie? It'd be amazing.
It would be. But then haters would say it wouldn't be a masterpiece anymore. Haters would.
Well, that's why you don't listen to haters, everybody. So he goes through the timescape. He goes through the starscape. Time and the universe and geometry and everything is twisting and turning and changing, and he doesn't understand what's going on. It's actually the most emotional Dave ever is. He's actually terrified.
He's fucking horrified, yeah.
He's literally trying to turn into his own helmet, which is one of the most powerful shots, like the existential dread, facing the void. Like, you would fucking want to look away. That's like, that creeps me the fuck out. When Dave is like, when it's those, Kubrick utilizing these still shots of Dave like turning into his helmet, like you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
Along with that music, with atmospheres, you're just like, oh my god, like nobody will ever make anything this good.
Yeah.
but we're gonna try at Zoobox.
But
So
here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. Like, I'll save it for the last bit. But like, would you say this was a horror film?
yes, I do actually, because I think it's about existential dread. What existential dread implies is this uncertainty about the future and about your place in life. And I do think it's kind of powerful in that way. Like, it's actually scary to think about you juxtaposed to the universe. Like, it's very humbling when you really get into it. Like, not like Floyd would get into it, guys. Like, not a smarmy prick. Like a good guy, like Dave. Well, you start conceptualizing your own life on the timeline of existence of the universe itself, realizing like how inconsequential you are. That can be very painful for a lot of people, myself included, at certain points in my life.
Especially for an astronaut. He spent his whole life being, elite, physically elite, and
Yeah, we're talking the best of the best, right? Top of the crop.
Yeah. So, but just get it into what's your whole take on the hotel, if you will, the room, the green room.
We call it the hotel because Arthur C. Clarke basically said it's like a hotel room. Mm-hmm. That was his take on it. That's how he described it. I think Kubrick ignored that. And he makes a room that is full of Enlightenment era Victorian furniture, paintings, which I tried to find the paintings. Apparently they were made for the movie. But they're
really?
But they're made in the style of other paintings, of the Rococo era of painting, which is like a Baroque Victorian era style. Well, because I think like in a pretentious way, they're saying like this is the height of like kind of humanity, or like the Enlightenment period was, where we were like purely looking for truth. Mm-hmm. Maybe not, in a pretentious way. So I think the room is like a literalization of the project of human endeavor. That to me it is. I don't look at it like an alien thing. I just never did. I never looked at it like that. I don't know why. Because Arthur C. Clarke looks at it as an alien thing. He even thinks like when people would like make theories about what the hotel room was, he's like, "Oh, Dave is in a zoo. He's in a zoo being watched." I'm like, "Oh, that's fucking stupid." But Arthur C. Clarke kind of co-signed
that. So Kubrick, though, Kubrick said that too.
Nah, he didn't say that.
Yeah, he did. I'll show you the video.
He said he's in a zoo?
Yeah, like a zoo. We went through painful details to try to recreate, an animal's basically like surroundings, environment. So we went through painful details to do the exact opposite of like what somebody would do for a human. But that's only at the surface level. So.
Well, I have to tell you this, Paul, but Kubrick is wrong.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wrong by some movie.
Just listen to good guy Sean. He's going to take you through. We're fine. No, I never.
I'm surprised you didn't see that, because the guy was asking, what does it mean? What does it mean? He goes, he says, I hate telling people what things mean. He goes, I don't like it. If I say it out loud, it's stupid. It has to be dramatized. Like that's not good. But like, yeah. But he went on to go about it.
Which is true, because then he said it, and I think it's stupid.
Yes.
I mean, no, I like okay.
But like reoccurring though, like things as primal instincts, recurring themes, everything that we're talking about, blah 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 blah. Like this higher intelligent life form, right? Because the book talks about like a white dwarf essentially guiding his space pod to go to where it needs to go, to where it eventually lines up. And like through the stargaze within the film, you can see various different things that could or could not be the white dwarf, and this could have been one of the things that Kubrick decided to be aligned with Clarke with, or it could have not have been. I don't know, but they are.
Yeah, I mean, there's an interesting thing we didn't mention this. We talked about the Starscape scene. Is that there literally looks like an egg being fertilized. Mm-hmm. Like Dave's ship moves like in a sperm-like fashion towards like an ovum,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's like a foreshadowing of a child being born. Very interesting. It's in there. It's in there. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy.
Yeah. Well, so there's a lot of other phallic shit, right? This is Kubrick we're talking about.
Kubrick
Get,
loves dicks. I don't know what
Kubrick
people don't
loves
understand.
dicks.
Get with the
If you
program,
understand
everybody.
if you understand that, you have the key to the whole Kubrick universe. Everything makes sense if you know what it's about. Know what it's about. What the fuck was I saying?
I think you were talking about what I was just talking about.
Oh, the zoo.
Yes, the
The whole
zoo.
thing, like, yeah, and not dramatizing everything. So, like, as the recurrent theme, okay, yeah. So, like, if they are there, like, what are they? All right, let's separate. Let's contain this. Let's observe this for the duration of his life. Where they are in space, time is, it's a little finicky, and it's illustrate that in the film where he's there in the shuttle. Then he sees himself outside looking in, and then he goes into the bathroom. And he sees himself eating dinner. And then he eventually sees everything is lapsed. It's not. And what I got out of that is just like time is happening different because he's aging precipitously, right? So this is time as we know it is not how it's being portrayed like here, right? And it's just like happening. And so these people, if they were like observing him like through this, they contained him, like a zoo, and they put him out there, and it's just if you went that route, like I can't really make sense of the ending of that film.
I mean, that's Clark's route. That is 100% Clark's route.
I
Is that
can't make sense.
there's an external force, there's an alien force that is keeping Dave Bowman captive. I mean, he does go into the idea that time and space are not the same thing there. He does talk about that. He mentions that. I believe he mentions that in the novel.
Yeah, but it's not even just a Clark route, though.
Well, this is the thing. Like part of this, I think, for the movie is just a grand metaphor. It's not like it's metaphor writ large. It's not meant to be taken literal at some point. I think once we're through the Starscape, like the movie stops being kind of literal. And they're showing you the idea that like, and the reason why it's not literal is because we cannot conceptualize what is happening there. Couldn't show it. We wouldn't know how to show it. So the best thing we can do is to show you like this idea of time kind of collapsing in on itself through Dave's journey to be, to dying. That was my kind of read on that, because I just think it's supposed to impart to you this idea that like this is beyond understanding, beyond human understanding right now, because we have not evolved to the place where we can understand what is going on. It's not until Bowman dies that he kind of gets it. He has to give over. He has to accept this kind of concept that I am dying, but the journey isn't over. Mankind is not over. So I reach out to the monolith. I want to touch the monolith in my dying moments because I want more. And Dave Bowman in that moment is a stand-in for humanity. Humanity wants more. And through this idea of wanting more, you were born again. I'm just joking.
There you go, Tom. There you go. But the God damn it.
Oh, there you go. See, you're welcome, everybody. Paul just conceded the argument.
Blew his mind. Blew my mind. Now it fell over.
No, I think that is honestly, Paul, I gotta say, I think that's a pretty good read on that at the end of the movie. I don't know. I know you're stunned in silence.
Yeah, well, I'm stunned in silence because I keep thinking about like Clark, and then like the next book, which I already got a head on as well.
You gotta wait. Pace yourself, guy.
Yeah, I know. And just like everything about that, you got to distinguish. And again, like if you haven't watched the movie, don't read the book first, because everything Sean just said is just complete bullshit. But if you never read the book, you can really buy onto that.
No, but think about this. Kubrick cuts Clark out of the process at some point. Kubrick is not telling the same story. He's not.
Oh yeah, that's
at all. Like, he's not. Like, I like Arthur C. Clarke. I've said this at the top. I'll say it again. But that is a rote science fiction story. I have read a lot of science fiction stories, okay? That's all of them. They're all very similar to that. Go read Isaac Asimov. Go read Harlan Ellison. Go read Robert Heinlein. They all have that kind of sense. Same types of things. Same types of ideas. Same types of explorations. So when I listened to that book, it came off to me like, oh, this is a science fiction novel of the era. That's what it felt like to me. Just being a little bit like, and I'm not saying this to be like detrimental to you or be an asshole. Like, it's just like, I just have read more of that stuff. So to me, it's not as like crazy or groundbreaking. But Kubrick clearly wanted to distance himself from that novel. Is it because he wanted to maintain ambiguity? Or is it because he just like was doing a different thing? Like he had done with other people's novels in the future. Or even in the past. I mean, if he's Dr. Strangelove, Lolita, he completely changes the meanings of those things, those stories. He does his own thing with it. So when I think about 2001 and I think about the book versus the movie, I just think this is another example. Like, yeah, Kubrick was actually literally involved in the inception of that novel, but I don't think he had an interest in telling the same kind of science fiction story that Arthur C. Clarke wanted to do. I think he was actually, in a way, part of the grander tradition of science fiction that is like to tell allegorical tales, to actually speak philosophy through narrative. In my opinion. And one day when you grow up, Paul, I know we call you Big Paul, but one day when you're...
So let's recap the rebirthing scenario. Yeah. Say that again back to me. Slowly,
What?
because I've been drinking High West.
Oh, so have I, my friend. So have I. This is how deep I am. Probably maybe not as deep as you, but I'm that deep. The rebirthing scenario? Like, what happens when he becomes the Star Child?
Yeah, we're talking about the meaning at the end.
Yeah. Okay. So
you're saying that the whole room is representation at the peak of humanity, right?
Yeah.
We didn't really achieve much like after that. Yeah, we had some tech or whatnot, but like this era, like that's pretty much like humanity at its best, right?
Well, as far as like philosophically, it is, right? Like when we start talking about things like philosophy did not develop very much past that, other than like Nietzsche. Then because psychology became a thing, Freud became a thing, Jung became a thing. It's not until the 60s again that we get postmodernism, which is another jump forward in philosophy and whatnot. But look what happened, you know what I mean? But
68.
So like I think that the end of the movie is like a metaphor for the idea that like humanity wants to strive forward, and Bowman is a stand-in for that. Like Bowman does not ascend until until he dies, because it takes a lifetime to understand the value of progress and the value of moving forward. That's why he reaches out in his final moments as a man. He reaches out for the monolith, because the monolith is, in its purest sense, is knowledge. That's what it is. And so metaphorically, I think that's what's going on. I know there's a literal thing with like fucking aliens or whatever. That's come on. For lack of a better way to put it, everybody. I've had a lot to drink. Keep this in mind. That's gay shit.
At the end of this, we'll just do a breakdown of how every single Kubrick film was a horror film. So, and you just
that's the final Kubrick episode. That's like the full circle. We come full circle, and we just talk generally about our experience watching all of these Kubrick movies and how we feel at the end. Because we're gonna get into some sticky territory. I mean, when we start, if we get into Lolita and Eyes Wide Shut, some sticky territory.
Yeah.
Are we doing Lolita?
I'm down. I'm down with that.
You're gonna have a hard time with that book. I can tell you right now.
Well, do I want to read the book after this whole experience?
The book does inform the movie for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because like it shows you what Kubrick's subversive nature, and actually flipping the book on its head a little bit, which is weird because the author of the book co-wrote the script.
So did Clark with his
Well,
2001.
I know that, but the book of Lolita came out. It was a very controversial book. Came out before he
Yeah.
made the movie,
Yeah.
and it is controversial for a reason. I can
Yeah.
tell
No,
everybody here.
Yeah.
It is a dark fucking book. It's
Yeah.
actually hard to read sometimes, but like I have not done with it yet. Just because
Oh
I'm just like
wow.
I can't like go back to. I'm like I don't want to. It gives me the creeps. It makes my skin crawl. The book makes my
Yeah.
fucking skin crawl. But like I do think there is a deeper purpose to it now that I've kind of gotten further and there's revealing itself a little bit. But I'll save that for if we ever talk about Lolita. I don't even remember where the fuck we are. Now we've gone through the Starscape, and now we're fucking everything. Nothing matters. Okay, so what is your read, Big Paul? What do you think happens at the end of 2001? I've told you what I think.
Yeah.
What is Paul?
No,
What
I
is
already
Big Paul?
told you. I already told you. I said I knew nothing. I don't know what to think. I couldn't make any sense of it. Couldn't make any sense of it all. I was too tainted with Arthur C. Clarke and
Well,
what was
Arthur
going
C.
to happen
Clarke.
with Bowman.
Well, he talks about the. So, do you buy the Arthur C. Clarke interpretation?
No, like I went off like if you were like the follow the biblical themes that you like poo-pooed on at the beginning with coming back and like the resurgence and everything recycles, and then another second coming and stuff like that, and then he was going back
That ain't the Bible,
back
bitch.
to
That's
Earth
fucking
with
life.
coming back to Earth with enhanced knowledge, like with something more to bring, like the next because what song is playing in the background with the little star child like floating towards the Earth?
Thus spake Zarathustra.
You're goddamn right. And what has that song been used like throughout the whole film?
It's been used. I think it was used 3 times. It's in the opening, after the credits, the
Mm-hmm.
planets aligning. It's when the bone is. We discover the bone. We discover technology. Then it's
Yep.
used with the Star Child.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The circular nature of the story.
Yeah. So that's basically what I wrote down for that. Just going back in there, and it resurfaces it just with a little bit better.
Zarathustra comes
better
down from the mountain to tell the people, to give the people the information, to tell the people to be enlightened, to be better than themselves, because it is a shallow, empty pursuit to keep it to yourself. It's not pleasing if it's just you that knows. You need everybody to know. So the Star Child is born to tell everybody, which brings us back to the dawn of man, to tell everybody.
Exactly.
Because they live outside of time and space. And he has become a god. That is what God does. That is the work of a god.
Concept of a god. The comeback. Yeah. Well,
Yeah. So so what are you saying, Paul? Good guy Sean is right. Good guy Sean was right from the get-go. 2 hours and 13 minutes ago, or maybe 11 minutes ago, Sean, the good guy Sean, laid out a scenario, okay? And Paul was doubtful. He questioned he questioned me like Dave questioning Hal. And all I'm doing is trying to help. I'm just trying to get this mission accomplished. And this guy wants to kill me. I'm going to do Twitter black girl claps. Kill me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, just like any truth bearer, right? There'll be some dissent out there. There'll be some
Trust me.
naysayers.
Listen,
And then it comes
I got my
full
cross in
circle.
the other room. I'm ready to get up on it. I just want to be noticed, really. I just want to be noticed and appreciated. Just like Jesus. Like, notice me! Witness!
Oh God.
Hey now. We've had I think we're getting toasted.
Just a little bit until Zoobox steps up their production game, gets me a stand. I'm going to have to make deal with this.
Dude, I'm gonna send you a fucking stand.
I will get a laptop.
One day when Zoobox is we've proliferated, when we've become like the monolith itself and is sending out knowledge. Like, it's something I always kind of feel guilty about, just for a little how the sausage is made stuff, people. Like, I can't pay people for their time right now. I'm a poor guy. I'm poor. I'm not giving anybody cash money to do this with me. So I respect the time that people offer to me. And because someday I will give you money if this continues. If not, we just had some great conversations. And I recorded them and put them on the internet for mass consumption. And I say mass consumption, I mean about 90 people.
I'm just glad you record this one and not the other ones.
Holy shit, I know, right?
Yeah.
You want to talk about wild conspiracy theories? Oh, anyway, so yeah, well, speaking of that, so did Kubrick fake the moon landing?
I think it's pretty straightforward.
Well, he was intimately involved in NASA. At the time this film was made, they're using this film as propaganda. They made their own little weird documentary about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we had this space race with Russia, everything going on.
Exactly. We could have gotten
the whole country was in complete riots between the Vietnam War and MLK assassination. We need something to distract everybody. We sent Buzz.
That's what we need today. We need a new moon mission.
We just fucking sent 2 people out of the Earth with that.
I watched it.
Yeah.
I watched that shit with my kid. It was kind of exciting.
Yeah. It was right. Actually, the day we did the fucking Shining episode, that's when that was.
Yes.
So.
Oh my God, synchronicity.
Reoccurrence, man. Keeps happening, man. Keeps happening.
The synchronicity of existence. Well, so I have seen this movie a billion times. I cannot wait to watch it a billion more. It's so weird. Like, I just don't get sick of it. Like, I could literally have this on in my life at least once a week. Not every day. Don't be weird. But just, it's so beautiful. Like I said at the beginning, it's kind of like a piece of art.
Mm-hmm. And
it transcends what we kind of normally experience as a movie, to me. It's probably the best. If I were to act, like right now, I would say it is the best thing Kubrick ever did. Like, on a technical level, on a philosophical level, is the most impactful thing he's ever did. Because, usually when you make a movie that makes a big splash, like, there's a million imitators, right? Nobody ever fucking came close to imitating 2001. Not with the intention of it. It is the Citizen Kane of his time. It was so far ahead of the curve. So far, it took us 50 years to catch up to it. Citizen Kane is very much the same way. Even just on a technical level, like film technique. Like, it took 60 years for people to catch up to Citizen Kane. I think 2001 is in the same company, to be honest with you. And if you know me, which, Paul knows me. People at home maybe don't know me. Citizen Kane is like one of my all-time favorite movies. It is actually the thing that made me fall in love with movies. It was Citizen Kane and Evil Dead 2. That's what made me fall in love with movies. It's what made me want to someday, still to this day, I'm like, I'm going to get one before I die. I don't give a fuck if I'm shooting it on an iPhone in my backyard. I'm going to do one. And that's where that passion started, was Citizen Kane and Evil Dead 2. And that, as an adult, I would put 2001 in that company. Because 2001 is it's just so impressive. It's like overwhelmingly impressive. Like, from the technical detail to the philosophical message. It's so all consuming. Like, I was, I had a little bit to drink one time. I put 2001 on. It was when I first got a 4K TV. Thank you, Danimal. My brother Dan bought me a 4K TV. So I bought a 4K player. One of the first 4K Blu-rays I bought was 2001. I was a little toasty. This movie brought me to tears. I was in tears. I was so touched by it, which is weird because it's such a cold movie. Such a cold movie. But like the message, the philosophical ideas, the things that it made me think of, just as being a man, being a human being, like it's actually very powerful if you like take the time to really apply the lessons to your own existence. It's scary. Fucking wild, man.
Yeah.
Now top that, you stupid bitch. I'm
No. Where do you go with that? Where do you go with that? After Sean fucking sucked the dead guy's dick for like the last, I don't know, where are you going on that? Like 5 minutes?
2 hours and 20 minutes.
Holy shit. Yeah, no, it just a great experience. This will literally be the last time I say it. Don't, not the book. It's not the book. Two different things, and both great in their own rights, but like the film, it's just a great experience. And and I am glad I watched it for the first time later on in life, because I definitely would not have appreciated that like any earlier. Even 10 years ago, I'd probably be like, who knows? I'm just at a space now, like in my life, where I could sit down and take the time and appreciate something like that, and it's just overall great experience.
Well, I think in a weird way, like being a parent actually informs a lot of this movie, because you have a sense of lineage, you have a sense of your own like history, like of your family's history, right? And it just kind of makes some of the notions that it's putting forward like even more prescient. It's just a very like adult, well considered statement. Yeah.
It
really is on every level. And Kubrick, like this genius IQ guy, is like working on levels that give you a headache. Like you can't even parse them out. Like intellectually, it's so hard to make a coherent statement about 2001 and why it works. Because it almost transcends the art form. It really it's art. It's not just a fucking movie. Like it is something special.
And that's what makes it hard to explain to somebody like what you're watching. Like if someone says, what's that about? And say, hey, what's 2001 about?
Well, that's always been the struggle with 2001, because everybody's like, even if you were to go online and like read like a log line, it would be like, rogue AI loses control and tries to kill. Like that's how it's described on cable TV.
Oh wow.
Yeah, a rogue AI like malfunctions and tries to kill the crew of a spaceship. Because how do you describe it? It's about the human evolution, about the journey to self-actualization. Like what?
Yeah.
What do you say?
I guess they had the perfect cop out for the time. The ultimate trip.
I guess so.
60s, baby. 60s. A lot going on there. A lot of trips.
All right, Paul. So if you need to leave people with like a sentiment about 2001, what would you say?
Don't read the book. Watch the film.
If I had to leave people with something, I would say read the book after you watch the film. Appreciate them as different things, but also just like have an open mind when you watch it and pay attention. But have an open mind. Like get a night where it's quiet. You can be in a dark room and really give your focus over to something. Put your phone down. Put your little monolith device. Put this bullshit away. Put it away. Put it in a cupboard. Lock it up. And just watch this movie. And think about your own existence and your own sense of self-awareness. And allow it to be the meditative, I think, experience that it wants to be. Give yourself over to it a little bit.
Yeah. It's fair enough. Make time for the journey. Appreciate it, because it's more than just a film.
Yeah, and
Here,
Paul,
it's nothing more self-evident than over 50 years old, and we're still here, like, fanboying over what it could or could not mean. So it's a great visual experience, and it's a great, thought-provoking experience after the fact.
I know that, like, because you probably feel the same way I do. You're like, I'm fucking done with 2001 right now. But let's watch it a few more times over the next few years. And I think, like, maybe the end of the Kubrick Boys is like doing commentaries on all the movies. It'd be fun. And because I would like, it's a movie that just like all Kubrick movies, just keeps giving. Like, every time you watch it, you're gonna think a little differently about something. And it's so cool that, like, something can offer that to you,
Because I watched it twice. Prior to this, I've only seen the film twice, and then I read the book, and I didn't even pick up the whole thing. At the beginning is exactly the same end. I didn't even pick that up. And as you say, it sounds like so pro, like, oh yeah, duh, but but it ties right back into everything too. I definitely will be giving another viewing in the future.
Yeah, it's something. It's something.
It is that rich, and you will get something again watching it.
It's literally something that, like, in a couple of years, like, we're gonna do all of these movies again in a couple of years. Like, come back to them, like, because it's like, it has been so fascinating. Even, like, some of these movies, I'm, like, intimately aware of, like, intimately familiar with, like The Shining. Oh my! I've seen The Shining like probably like 50 times, but still, I can talk to you. I can talk to a different person, and we have, like, bring something new to it, like something that just keeps revealing itself. Like, I cannot wait until we talk about A Clockwork Orange. That's gonna be fucking wild. It's gonna be a trip, everybody. Just like it was to talk about this. Like, we both come at our own perspectives. Obviously, I'm right. But I've seen the movie a million times. I have been watching 2001, like, critically since I was like 25. And that is much to his credit. Robbie Yeager. Really, he fundamentally changed the way that I actually just watch movies in general. I don't always agree with him. I don't always think, like, his interpretation is right. I think he leans too hard into the Kubrick is perfect. Kubrick means everything perspective sometimes. But Rob Iger will wake your ass up and be like, "Oh, there's more to what you're watching than you think there is," and you can actually kind of invest something of yourself in that experience, which I think just is the purpose of art, and is the purpose, because just this idea that we can actually have, like, a conversation about, like, the human experience and what it means to be a person through watching a movie. It's pretty fucking awesome. And it's something that makes our species unique in the known universe.
Can't follow up that without a good night.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you're listening on the podcast feeds, this has been Zoobox Goes to the Movies 2001, a complete starscape. And if you'd like to know more about Zoobox, you want to keep up to date with everything Zoobox, there's a bunch of links in the description for Facebook, for Instagram, for my personal Twitter. Also, if you'd like to make a recommendation for something that Zoobox, whether it's the daily videos or it's something Zoobox Goes to the Movies, you'd like to see, like, a deep dive on, like, leave it in the comments. We'll put it on the list, and we'll see what we can do. Also, thanks, Paul. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, John.
And we will talk to you guys soon. I don't know what we're going to talk about. I know Kubrick Boys are going to be talking about Clockwork Orange, but
yeah,
we might slide a little Fight Club in there. Yeah, might slide a little Fight Club in there. I heard somebody's been reading.
I read the book.
I was going to say, I heard somebody's been reading. So we might slide some Fight Club in there. I don't know if that'll be before or after Clockwork Orange, but Fight Club is actually a pretty apt book for, like, today's day and age. It is. So maybe we'll do that. I don't know. Oh, but so is Clockwork Orange. We're going to find out. We're gonna find out together, everyone. Thank you for listening. I'm just gonna stop. I'm just gonna hit the stop button because I've already gone on too long. We are the Star Child.